Good catch, Jane. Thank you. Okay. Good. So, now we can minimize that. We'll bring that back later, but I don't need it for a while. We're going to see if this works. Because I think that I have figured out a solution for some of the problems that I was having on last stream when I couldn't figure out what was where and where to find it and where things were moving. I think that I've worked a few of those bugs out, and I've got a plan. So I have a backup plan if the thing that I have currently going on doesn't quite work out. There's an easy plan B that I think will also be won't take long. It'll just be, I'll fix it. Yes, I wanted to get to that. That's what I'm trying to work towards. I'm trying to get the document open. Oh heck, I can't have that open. Up all of my resources. No, that's not what I want. That's what I want. I need that to go away. And actually, that should already be that. Yes, and it should probably pull up automatically. That's the document that was linked last to this account. Looks like it's trying, maybe. Here, let's just help it out. let's just help it out. Still having a hard time displaying it, looks like. But yes, I do want to add that update to this. Oh, it's waiting for me to do that. Okay. So this is the correct thing. This is a terrible way for me to have this set up because that takes the entirety of this screen to have it there, and I could probably have it take up only half of that screen, and it wouldn't impact the display for you all, but I'm not going to do that right now. We'll fix that later. That's a minor detail that we can clean up off stream. I am pulling up the thing in general. State is the body that seeks to monopolize and maintain the monopoly. Right, that's the power that protects itself part over decision-making ability about the civil functions of society. You all can see this. Good. Right, so let's pop that there. Right, rather than it being, excuse me, can you get out of the way? Rather than it being claims of monopoly, structural power, seeks. Right, this is, I like seeks a lot better. That seeks to monopolize and maintain the monopoly over decision making. So this I think works really well because one of the things that we are going to have to work out in prefigurative organizing, one of the things that we are going to have to work out is the relationship of power to how, well, no, it's really just about the metaphysics of power itself as an existent thing in the world of plurality. And it's that power does seek to protect and insulate itself. That it does and it must. That this is a natural, according to Foucault's account anyways, this is a natural relationship that power has with the culture and society in which that power is. Its manifestation must be the kind of thing that does seek out its own recreation and seeks to protect itself from that which is external to it. And that's the emergence of power as an effective thing for making changes in the material world. It is this necessary relationship that power seems to have with us in culture and society. So one of the things that we're going to have to work out is to what extent do systems of power necessarily must protect itself from accountability, as distinguished just seek its own recreation and to protect itself from dissemination, right? Well, even also necessarily any kind of such system that seeks to recreate itself will be grooming future generations to do the work, right? In the Hannah Arendt sense, do the work of upholding the institution of it, right? So that's we'll have to have a lot. I should be writing this stuff down. I got way ahead of myself without making any notes or writing any of this down. I think that we can just, we don't need to salvage anything from the previous definition. Future considerations, I'll put for now. Considerations. Power necessarily, we'll put for now, necessarily seeks its own recreation. I'll put the hyphen there. Creation. And to protect itself from dissemination. Thank you. To what extent must such a system necessarily insulate itself from accountability? So, right, what I mean by this is the theory of just institutions, which let me just make a note because Jane's been putting a whole bunch of stuff in chat and I haven't been keeping up with that. The theory of just institutions. Which isn't what it's called, but that's what I think of it as, and that's what okay. So, good. And what do we mean by power is another important question. Absolutely. What do we mean by, that's good. Good. Thank you. What do we mean by power? Right. Because what we're concerned with is biopower, the ability for humans to work together towards some kind of unified purpose in a way that allows them to work together in the fulfillment of that purpose, right? That's that's broadly speaking, that's the power about which we speak. But it manifests itself in a myriad, right? And can manifest itself in a myriad of different kinds of ways. So there's a whole universe of stuff to unpack with regard to just how Foucault envisions power, not to mention all of the people that came after Foucault and have critiqued or added onto the body of work about how power relationships and networks of power. Right, so we've got lots of more deep dives planned for what to do with this topic. Right, I still don't have a good answer personally for this, and this is one that I think is helpful. That for me, what I'm thinking is maybe we'll put a pin in this. And I meant to unpack the just institution, so I'll go back and do that first. But while I'm putting a pin in this, let's put a pin in this. And if you all would like to continue the conversation in chat or in the Discord, fantastic, cool. I couldn't be happier with that. But for me, I think that we did a good job of unpacking a lot of the ideas and a lot of the important thresholds and distinctions that we should be clued into. And next, I would like to crack into some other viewpoints. We have worked together to work through some of the differences in some of the problems with identifying really materially significant differences. We did a good job of doing that already, I think. Now that we have done that, it would be helpful for me to reflect on other people's past attempts to do this in literature, right, in the ways that they have written about these kinds of distinctions and trying to identify important thresholds and distinctions. So, I'll want to mull some of this concern over, probably do a little bit of reading into some other avenues of research. And then after I've found some stuff that I think is helpful or useful, come back and we'll crack open this question later. But right, so to what extent must such a system or any kind of power must such a system necessarily insulate itself from accountability, which is distinct from protecting itself from dissemination. And the difference is the same kind of distinction that we would make about liberal ideology in general, right? That there are limits to the kinds of actions that I can do in the world of plurality. And those limits are set by harms I would do or ways that I would interfere with the rights and freedoms and liberties of others, right? And liberalism is okay with us kicking people out on the street because they haven't paid rent, or starving in the street because they can't afford groceries. And liberalism doesn't recognize those harms as harms. And this is the same kind of difference, right? That it's one thing for something to protect itself from dissemination. It's okay for me to do what I must do to ensure my own safety and survival and protection and life and liberty. When that interferes, right? If I am insulating myself from accountability, that is because it is because I have done something for which I should probably be accountable. That's the assumption, right? And the way that we would think about this is like police unions. The way that the police unions are part of the apparatus, the power of the institution of policing. The power of the institution of policing has lots of different apparati. Is that the plural for apparatus? Apparatuses. And one of those apparatuses is the unions that protect and shield it from accountability, so that it can continue to be an unjust thing. It can continue to abuse. It can continue to do indirect harms, the same as the landlord putting people out on the street, or that groceries are behind a paywall, right? That kind of harm that is an indirect harm that's justified for some kind of reason. And so that would be this distinction. And I don't think that we need to make that distinction right now, or have that conversation, but we'll lay on that groundwork. So self-defensive versus offensive, that is not a bad way to think about it, Jane, but it's too limited a way to think about it, because it would still be if I anticipate the escalation of a conflict, and I anticipate the conflict is about to get physical and somebody is going to try to do violence to me, I might preemptively accost somebody else in my own self-defense. So there's a lot of complicated nuance to this, and right, but again, that is not at all a bad way to think about it, but that's just one dimension with which we might make some kinds of distinction when we're looking at the broader lens. Right, so maybe that's a good way to answer that metaphorically. Welcome in, Matt. Good to see you. Yeah, fuck landlords. And fuck the police. Are those supposed to be tied to sound alerts? It seems like that would be. Maybe they're not. I don't remember. Fuck the police! They can't control! We gotta take it back! Everyone get up and let's go! Okay. Yeah, you know how to do all the magic with the commands, and I don't. I don't know anything about how any of those really work. And I am gonna spend some time at some point figuring that out, I promise. I haven't had time. But it's still, again, to reiterate, I'm not behind on my schoolwork anymore. Not caught up, but I'm not behind. I've finished the last of the project proposals for the one class, and I finished reading all of the on-time submissions for the rough draft. I still have, I think, like 20 essays still left to read, which is kind of a lot. Still, I was able to get 4 done. No, it was more, 5 done this morning before stream. But those are all late sessions. So they submitted them late, which means I don't have to prioritize getting them back to them on time. So, caught up, but still not, or not behind, but not all the way caught up. So, I'll spend some time tomorrow giving up some of my weekend to get caught up on the essays. I'll probably just take all day Sunday off. I won't be off. I'll have lots of other stuff to do, because I've got to do laundry and clean the house and run errands and do the things that you need to do to survive. Welcome in, Elaine. Good to see you. I've returned, children of God. Good. Oh, and good timing. Now is a good time for me to pull up this thing, which isn't. I'm not sure if you saw the response that I put in the Discord, Elaine. Elaine, let me see. Where did it go? Gotta be a way I can get a better image. Oh no, that was good. That'll work. I should have had some kind of. I should have already prepared this. I'm sorry, everyone. Let's see how I can capture this. Hey, it let me do the thing exactly what I wanted it to do. Man, that's unusual. Usually I have like 5 or 6 failed attempts before I figure out what the heck I'm doing with OBS. Dang, a pro streamer moment. Look at that. First thing I tried actually worked. So this is the thing that Eleni posted in Discord, which was something that was sent to them and they didn't understand, and I completely understand and sympathize. I'm gonna do my best to put words to this. So what we have, does it see my cursor? What we have, come on, is so human spirit. This is probably the best place to start. Is that the human spirit or will in this diagram is being put into action toward not this is trash. Okay, so the idea is that we direct ourselves towards this end of knowledge in itself. That's the end. The final end is probably the better way to say it, to which we all are or ought to should be directed, as in accord with nature. Right? And nature and justice corresponds in a natural law relationship that we can use our human will to observe and make judgments about how we should reorient our own ideal in the ideal pursuit towards knowledge. And all of this stuff is really kind of meaningless, right? Insert whatever the fuck you want, right? And that's the other that's the reason why this isn't in any way helpful or useful or meaningful with any kind of real substance, or which is why I think it's almost kind of a meme. Why I put that part about it? I think it's actually kind of a joke, because it's this is really convoluted. It's a very simple idea presented in a rational abstraction framework, right? So we've already got a complete divorce from material reality. right? So this is an abstracted model of pure reason about how human will can or is or ought to be, whatever. And that's the thing with every single one of these quote unquote inputs. It's just meaningless garbage. Plug in anything that you want to believe here, right? Read any of these things in any way that you want to. Because when I first looked at this, I was like, well, this is market coming together to establish rights for people as distinct from capital and property, right? You can make believe this to be whatever you want to, which is a kind of what I think it's supposed to be, really profound and really meaningful, because it doesn't have any substance of its own. So when you look at it and you have to associate a bunch of baggage with your ideals about what the symbols and ideas mean, you get something meaningful, because you're a meaningful person who is looking for patterns in something that you perceive to be somebody's intelligible, meaningful patterns. But to me, this is like an empty algebra equation. To me, it's an algebra equation that doesn't correspond to any actual physics, any material reality, and is an equation that can't work itself out, right? Is kind of how I interpret it. Is this Christian capitalism as a diagram? It absolutely can be. It didn't help that the sender was Getman. I don't know who Getman is, but I'll take your word for it. Yeah, thank you for returning. I appreciate the streak. W streak, absolutely. Yes, it's like Jordan Petersonism. That's actually really quite I would say not just accurate. There's what's the off even more so. Not just accurate, but like because the thing with Jordan Petersonism is that it's nothing but a self-help framework that is the same self-help framework that literally every other self-help guru uses, with no personality and no identity of its own. That's why they work, quote unquote, is because for that same kind of reason, is that it's something that appears as though it's supposed to have meaning in the structure, but it doesn't. When you look at the structure of Jordan Petersonism, you have a bunch of beliefs about the world that inform how you understand the structures, and then gives you an output. It's just something. It's like the thought experiment of the glass half full or half empty is something that is about your perspective and tells you about you, right, in the exercise. But it's self-help Jordan Petersonism is that, just with a lot more steps, that when you look into the thing, it appears as though this is what it is, but that's because you have to input all of your own beliefs and ideas and fundamental values into the system, and then it does necessarily work, but that's because you see the world in a fantastical way that's idealized and detached from the material world, which is why self-help gurus, and Jordan Peterson in particular is not very helpful in any of those things. Welcome in, Nova Rider. It's good to see you. I meant to ask you the last time you were in here. Would you rather I call you Mika Kind or call you Nova Rider? Because I know you as Nova Rider, but it to me to ask you which you preferred. Do you need to do the Nazi salute? Not yet. Not getting there yet. And I won't get that far. I will be murdered before then. Martyred, however we want to envision that. Because the first time somebody comes to me and tells me I need to do a Nazi salute, or else I will fight to the death to destroy that person. They better come with a whole bunch, because I'll kill somebody for trying to make me do that. Though I would not advocate for violence. Do I need to make some kind of disclaimer? Am I gonna get this? Am I gonna get banned from YouTube and Twitch for telling people that they should do violence to fucking Nazis that tell them to do salutes? Why should it be the case that I have to run the risk? I have to worry about being penalized by talking about the thing that you should do to Nazis, right? Why would that be something that could be censored? That's your number one clue that you live in a fascist fucking dictatorship. That you already are in that shit, right? That I would have to worry about my censorship for telling other people that they ought to do the right thing when they encounter Nazis. Jordan Peterson says, clean your room, then you will be rich. Right? Cleaning your room helps, but it doesn't change the material conditions all that much. No. Basically, all Jordan Peterson is selling is what you have to improve your life. To us, wait, what? Is use what you have to improve your life, which most people already do. Yes. Took me a second to read what is a very well put together sentence. I don't know why it was giving me so much trouble. Can't stand the... Yeah, me either. Like most people have ever cooked as a poor person, but poor people use cooking substances. Yeah, and that's... Yeah, absolutely. With Jordan Peterson, it's the same formula as every other self-help thing. And... which one do you want to you, Mika Kind? I know you as Nova Rider, so that will probably be easier for me to just continue to refer to you as Nova Rider. But here's the clean your room thing. Here's the reality. If dispel the magic trick, the reality is that you self, your body is an emotional thing. It is an emotionally sensitive creature. You are an emotionally sensitive creature. Whether you recognize that you are or not, whether you are aware consciously, you are. And you respond, your body responds to your environment naturally. And if you take the time to take care about your space, right? You take the time to decorate it with artwork, and you take the time to dust and to keep it clean and to pick it up. It's not that this is going to somehow fix your life. When you do those things in the material world, you are signaling to your emotionally sensitive body that it is a real thing worth taking the time and effort for, right? It's the same thing when you trim your fingernails and your toenails, and for a lot of people, they think about this as a chore, as something unpleasant for them to do, which gives them bad emotional input when they do those things, when it would be more helpful, more beneficial, more productive, and more mentally stimulating for them to take that time to appreciate that they can take care of their body, that they can do something to signal to their body that it's a thing worth taking time and energy and consideration to clean and to maintain and to care for, right? And this is a relationship that a lot of, I don't know how many people, but many people don't really ever develop with themselves or with their bodies, is that you are an emotionally sensitive being, and you are emotionally sensitive to your own actions and your own words. When you say negative and unpleasant things about yourself, you feel bad about that. Even if you don't, your conscious mind doesn't recognize that it feels bad. And that's more even the problem. If you say something bad about yourself and then you feel bad, you should be aware that your body feels bad about something. And you should recognize that alarm bell that your body is trying to help you. Your body is trying to help you understand there are ways that you can be more happy. But that requires you doing things for yourself, right? That you get a job, that you care about being honest so that people trust you. Those are part of you caring about yourself as a being. And to the extent that you take those things seriously, yourself knows. Whether or not you are consciously, mindfully aware of all of those things, your body is. I need to move this over here. Yeah, it's fucked that one of my favorite accounts lost their job for calling out Kirk's Nazism last year. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. I remember. Oh, welcome in, Street Cat Love. Snuck in. I didn't even see you. Welcome in. Good to see you. I remember you telling me about that it was just something that they posted on social media, right? Which is still, I think, should be illegal. That your employer can fire you for something that you posted on social media. I mean, unless it's child pornography, right? But we don't prosecute pedophilia here in the United States, not anymore. As a person, I have family that died in the Holocaust. It's scary seeing how close America is to Norway under Norway in the 1940s under Vidkun Kilsing. Yeah, I recognize. Was the type of Nazi to make other Nazis uncomfortable, which is racist Brits on the radio. I don't really get the Brits on the radio. Is that an expression I'm not familiar with? Or like for some people, like Asmongold, clean, it'd be probably... Oh, if people, for some people, like Asmongold, clean, it'd probably help a lot. Right. Their mental state and how they feel about the world, how they feel about themselves. Perfect example of somebody who lives in filth and whose mind is cluttered and toxic, right? That's it's the two are not necessarily correlated. Well, it is necessary. What is it? They're not it's not like there's a one-to-one necessarily. Probably some people who can be in a terrible environment but can emotionally shield and insulate themselves from those kinds of things for an extended period of time, or at least for a short period of time. And I think that some people would probably be more, right? Some people don't have the shieldings or the discipline or the understanding of self and body that they would just well, and this might happen to some people. Does anybody have a friend that has the dumpster car? Like if you take a ride with them somewhere, you get in and you open the door and trash falls out, right? Because there's just so much dumpster in the car, so much garbage and trash, and you're like, I don't want to go anywhere with you, right? And I won't, because my mental state suffers. Being in that kind of environment, especially closed in, I can't just open the door and get out. No. No, I'll walk, thanks. Because my mental state is highly affected by those kinds of things. I can't. I just can't. I mean, I guess I couldn't emerge. My life depended on it for a short period of time. I could make myself, but reminder politicians, Norway wouldn't have invaded in 1940 if they didn't normalize in 1939, and that's where we are. We are so beyond normalization. Americans at this point, and this is kind of what Nova Writers are alluding to in their comment up here, is that we are past that point of desensitization. We are at the edge of liberal people calling for the death of other Americans in the streets. We are at that edge. And right after that, it'll be right. And I can't believe that we don't already have programs in place for people to contact the FBI and to get paid cash money for turning in their communist professor or their communist neighbor or that person at the food co-op, right? I'm a little bit surprised that we don't have right now yet, that Trump hasn't. Maybe that's too on the nose, and they're worried that the American people won't be able to take it. But I don't have that. I mean, I believe the American people will absolutely embrace that shit. Maybe I shouldn't be speaking it with my words, but I mean, we need to be prepared for the reality. Was Dr. Bird wrote an awesome book called "We Are Fucking Machines." Yeah. Why are we like this? And who about it? Right. Good. Street Cat Love. That's I'm not familiar with that, but it sounds familiar. You were means because it's absolutely true. We are programmable machines, and the sooner that we as individuals understand ourselves as programmable machines, our goals and aspirations become more achievable, because we just have to figure out how to condition our now replicate kinds of behaviors that program us to do this full time. That's the thing. That's the goal. That's how you get from A to B, so to speak. Oh, his speech is on the radio. That's what you were talking about. Gotcha. Which is race. His speech is on the radio. Gotcha. Thank you for the clarification there, Nova. I got my congressman to give AIPAC money back. Fucking W. That's a W. And it's funny. One of the things that I need to look into, I just found out that there's a contender in Colorado who's running against Hickenlooper, at least one. And Hickenlooper has by and large been kind of a useless piece of shit. So there's a few two I've heard of so far, and I haven't done any research into either of them yet. But I'm excited. I'm excited to have some options, especially because both are not white. So right. And you know, it's terrible that I am actually kind of racist in that way. But I would, if I have the option, if I have two politicians, right? This is something that I probably am guilty of. If I had two politicians that were in every other way absolutely 100% identical, no distinguishing difference, but one is white and one is non-white. Because there's a perspective there that as a white person I have experience with, that perspective always not always panning out, not always being able to pick up the oppression, not always being able to be sensitive to those things because of privilege and stuff. Like that's a real thing. Oh, what videos are we watching? Thank you, Jane, for helping me keep me on track. I do want to get to the plastic pills video, but I also want to take a look at the ones that you posted in Discord. Someone was like, well, Palestine voted for Hamas. The election was in 2006, 20 years ago. 60% of the population was under 18, and 20 years ago, yeah, you had to be 18 to vote. 10% of Palestine's population is 40. Right, and none of it justifies, well, and genocide, absolutely, but I mean that's the thing, that's electoralism, and people aren't responsible for the electoral systems. Especially, most people don't actually get to take part. This is one of the paradoxes of democracy. I think that we've mentioned before, but we haven't really talked about in a long time. That there is no way to establish a democracy democratically. There's a paradox there, because you have to get everybody's consensus to institute a process by which you could get everybody's consensus, and you need everybody's consensus before that consensus taking process is legit. And so there's a paradox in democracy that it's simply not possible for people to be representable by a government that's a system, that's a government that's put in place, that is a state. And it's for that exact reason. It can't actually be in any way, really, it can't be democratic. It's always going to privilege some people. It's always going to privilege some situations, or some roles, or some individuals necessarily, because there are deciders and those who are subject to decisions. A lot of people have warned the government about the rise more neo-Nazis groups here in Norway after the terrorist attack happened in 2011. Yeah, a lot of people warned the government about the rise in more Nazis. I think what that is, and it's everywhere. Not just Norway, but it's everywhere. Fascism still exists everywhere, and Nazis, unfortunately, still exist everywhere. So that's not racist. That's reparations. You aren't leveraging power against a marginalized race, right? Right. I know. I was. Thank you, Matt, for that clarification, because you're 100% right. I was being a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but you are 100% right, and I appreciate you being clear about that. And in case anybody didn't catch that, I was being a little bit cheeky there, because it's not possible white people, because they enjoy systemic institutional power and the levers of society by and large. So, oh yeah, and Israel did fund Hamas for you. I think Second Thought has a really good video that I watched like 5 years ago, maybe even longer ago than that. about Hamas being funded by Israel, because it was the best bad guy that they could find. There were a lot of other socialist and communist resistance groups that were gaining traction at the time. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this because I do want to get back to the videos, but that is a good point, Eleni. And what the Israeli government did is they funneled money directly to Hamas because Hamas is the best bad guy. Right? They, at the time, they were extreme and they were fundamentalist. They were not good people. And Israel found the worst of the resistance fighters and funded them so that they would outcompete all of the other resistance groups, which they did. I'll try and find it. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I'll do some digging and pull that up. Let me make a note, because otherwise I won't. Otherwise I'm just telling a lie. Video about the funding of Hamas. Let's take a look and see what we have. I wanted to look at the I haven't even pulled, oh, I just closed Discord. I need that. I don't have the plastic pills video pulled up yet, but I do plan to do that. I also want to take a look at this one. I don't think that did the thing it was. You need this.
Before anyone gets nervous, let me be clear, I am not trying to start a cult, I'm not trying to sell snake oil, and God did not tell me to have multiple wives. But when I look outside my window, before anyone gets nervous, weep at the beauty of the natural world.
Okay. Get that figured out. Andrewism cult, let's go. Let's get the plastic pills video up first, because that's the one that I know. I think I'm going to try and fit this other, the Andrewism religion one right behind it, because I think it's also going to fare well. I'm trying to remember, Andrewism had done a video about religion a while ago that I thought was only 8 days old, so that's got to be a new one. Right. So this is it's kind of a long one. Oh, you all can't see. It's kind of a long one, but it's really good. And it's the reason why this has been on my playlist for a long time, that it first came up when we were still talking about identity and how this thing, the being which has the identity, which does the things which establish itself as an identity, right? When we were talking about this process of the identity doing the things in the world that establishes it, right? When we participate in the 4th of July parades, we become a nationalist being, right? And this is part of habit that builds. It doesn't be the thing we are. It doesn't define us wholly, but it becomes a part of that we have built up and curated over time. In this process, we often have the illusion, we are under the false idea that we are independent decision makers about states of affairs in the world, that we see states of affairs in the world, we assess those things, evaluate how to understand them, and then choose what we take onto ourselves in our identity. And this is not true. We are not independent critical thinkers that are decision makers about how we make judgments. We simply are not. We are social beings, and how we understand how to evaluate is a relationship that we get from the world. And it is enforced by positive and negative reinforcements from the world. How we understand, how we make judgments, how we do the process of arriving at decisions that we believe that we have made is a process that we don't have strict, complete control over. It's something that we are a part of, but is also a negotiation with everybody else in the world, every society. We have to negotiate our understanding in the world of others. We are determined in very many important, meaningful ways that we neglect because we assume that we can be independent, critical, autonomous, moral decision makers, which we cannot. We cannot divorce ourselves from the world in that kind of way. We're having the same problem that we had last time with the stream lag. Why is it still not showing me my thing? I don't know how to say that it's not showing the bottom of OBS. Still. Thought that I'd fixed it, but I haven't. I have not figured out what's going on with this screen yet. We'll get there. Just not right now. Okay, so anyway, that's the thing with the video. This is going to help us understand how it is that we get meaning. It's also going to tie into some of the conversations that we were having about authority, right? How we trust certain kinds of authorities or don't trust to the extent that we don't trust. And it's going to have to do with the postmodern problems of us not all having the same cultural reference around which to have our ideas. So we're tying a whole bunch of stuff together that we've been talking about for weeks now. We're going to tie a whole bunch of stuff together with this video, which is why, well, I can't put it off any longer. It's just it's going to be a tangled ball of yarn. If we wait any longer, it's already going to be a tangled ball of yarn. But I think we can detangle it.
There would be no place
way
to hide if this government ever became a tyranny. If a dictator ever took charge in this country, there would be no way to fight back.
Fascism.
Total tyranny.
Swear to God, I don't know what the fascism is. I don't know what the it is. Benito Mussolini.
It's not a simple word, but by the end of this video, I want to be able to communicate the sense of what the overused word, fascism, means right now. And that means I can't just write the definition on the screen.
A far-right authorization on ultranalytic. Oh my God!
The meaning of fascism, it's not in the definition. It's in the sense.
Characterized by dictator leadership, centralized autocracy, militarism, forcible suppression of opposition. So I don't know what that means, bro. I swear to God.
And that's difficult to communicate, but if I'm successful at it,
But I don't know who that streamer is, but they are comedy gold. that is just so absolutely hilarious.
what I'm going to try to do is that by the end of it, you're going to feel part of the hyperreal delirium that is fascism in its modern sense.
A far-right authorization. Suppression of opposition.
2,000 more ICE officers.
Centralized autocracy.
Violent criminal organization.
My beautiful new teeth.
Domestic terrorism.
Militarism.
They've infiltrated our entire country.
Domestic terrorism. An act of domestic terrorism.
The terrorists that they are.
Ultra NLatist.
President Trump.
These people are subhuman.
I am the storm.
Every single thing that I've said has been factual.
What is an example of a fascist?
Something as small as your smile really can change the world.
Yo! All right, bro. See what I'm saying, chat? Like, this is why I don't f with y'all, bro.
First thing I need you to do to get the sense is just to click off that little ethics center that you have in your brain a second. Pretend you're looking at this in an art gallery or something. You're looking ambivalently. There was a professional person, don't know who it was, some sort of stage manager or staff member who decided to create this shot. What kind of mind stages this little production and thinks, yeah, this is what we're going for. This is what we want. It seems unreal, or it should be unreal. It features a woman, older woman. She's a grandmother, actually, but she's dressed looking like an Instagram influencer with a pound or two of plastic in her face, caked in 90s porn star makeup. And she is standing in front of rows and rows of inmates. They're behind bars. Their heads are shaved, probably forcibly, conformity, you know. And someone made the prisoners with tattoos disrobe. This is so you, the viewer, can see how dangerous they are, because for a certain category of people, tattoos are dangerous.
Here are some of the most dangerous people in the world. You can see they have their tattoos. MS-13 is tattooed on their forehead.
Now, this is the backdrop of her little Insta shot here. And I imagine myself in this room, right? Forcing someone to disrobe. This is the ultimate signifier of power, coercive power. Yeah, and to do it for a background, to aestheticize that power, I mean, I don't know what else to call that, but sadistic. Other girls, they use a field of sunflowers for the background. Christy Nome uses human flesh, coerced human flesh as her post background. Oh yeah, and as the cherry on top, she's wearing a $50,000 watch, which, you know, it wouldn't be a proper influencer post without a flex. Now, if you play this video, you'll find out this whole production is to issue a threat.
But know that this facility is one of the tools in our toolkit that we will use if you commit crimes against the American people.
And if you espouse some value by which you decide what's real, a reality principle, then this should be unsettling to you. And I don't mean even morally unsettling. I mean aesthetically unsettling. Unclothed human bodies, for sure, have been really often used as objects in paintings, but it's always as individuals, not as piles, not as a backdrop. Piles of unclothed human bodies, in an aesthetic sense, that signifies another medium entirely. War crime journalism. So again, this is not an ethical judgment, just an aesthetic one, but this image signifies a kind of total power, a threat of total power over your body. She's sending this video to you.
I really like that there's almost a clinical kind of approach going on here. That Plastic Pills is trying to divorce us, the viewer, and themselves as a viewer from the immediate moral reaction which we should have to this, right? But there is value to dissembling these symbols and the meaning and how they are arranged. So it's just really quite beautiful.
And it's staged with that purpose, which, I mean, I don't think it's at this point alarmist to say that this, as a theatrical production is it's terroristic.
This facility is one of the tools in our toolkit that we will use if you commit crimes against the American people.
Now, from here on, I'm going to show that the purpose of this image is to evaluate you as a public. It's the shadow reality taking stock of your reaction, determining whether or not you are ready for stage 2, the next image in the sequence. Are you capable of aesthetically digesting this image? And here we are. This is a necessary stage of fascism, the aestheticization of violence. It always starts at the same spot. Now, Kristi Noem has taken her fascist dream closet around the country in earnest, rounding up the bad hombres, standing in front of APCs, holding guns. And look at this fucking backdrop, man. Here's the army and the cops and machine gun boats, but this really takes the cake here. Please tell me why there is a jungle camo net on the podium. I'm no military strategist, but if the illegal alien Air Force were targeting podiums, now I think they would see the jungle camo, no? In the sand, this is kind of high contrast. All right, the aesthetics, they're a big part of this. But a lot of the time, they're not meant to mock your intelligence. That's kind of intentional. Like here, she's wearing a bulletproof vest to a speech to her own guys. This is 100% form, 0% function. Look at this one. She's aiming the barrel right at her guy's head.
I'm gonna go out and pick up somebody who I think is got charges of human trafficking.
Yeah, nice touch too. She thinks it's a human trafficker. Don't you think it would be worth it to check before you go quickly make your announcement? But she doesn't even feel like she needs to demonstrate confidence in the seriousness of this mission because it's not serious. She can be flippant about it. Why do you think she can be flippant? Because it's a flex. Look again. Look, she's dabbing on us. She's dabbing on us. Now, this is what I want to stress to you repeatedly. This is all cynical. Arranging this is all cynical. Thinking that they're arresting a human trafficker, cynical. And holding the gun like this for the Instagram reel, this is not meant to be believed. Instead, this is a sort of vision test. It's a meaning test. Do you see it? Do you see it yet? The messaging of this whole apparatus is not to communicate anything. It's to constantly test your faith in reality in order to see how much you can tolerate.
The federal government has sole power to enforce immigration law.
These are acts of insurrection against the laws of the United States.
What's your name?
Seda. Seda what? You have a first and last name? Sam. Seda Sam?
Yeah. You know, they deal with rough people.
So the story is that ICE detained a 5-year-old. Well, what are they supposed to do?
Now, America's always done.
That's it. That's exactly it, Eleni. And I hate it when I'm right, but that is something that I absolutely called. That she would end up becoming a scapegoat for ICE's incompetence, while actually not taking any accountability for anything. Right? She doesn't have to actually be accountable because now she's in a different position. But she's already served as the scapegoat for all of ICE's incompetence. Double value, folks. Can't beat it. Unless we vote for people who specifically want to target people. Right. But I think I know what you mean. You mean unless we vote for people who run on a platform and that platform is going after people? Is that what you mean? No, she can't. Not really. No, not really, but she can. And this, what the video is getting to. I'm gonna kind of break some of the spoil some of it a little bit, is the way that the tactics that they use don't have to be real, based on anything real. They don't have to actually have any real function. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Whatever they do, their followers want a white supremacist who is going to make America first. No matter what. All of the Trump administration, all of the back and forth with the Democrats, none of this matters. It's all 100% meaningless. What the American, be real about this, what the American people want is a white supremacist who is willing to do genocide to Americans. That's literally what America wants. And it doesn't matter how they do it. It doesn't, and that's right. Them using Kristi Noem, it shouldn't have any meaning or impact, but for Trump supporters, it's already a foregone conclusion, right? ICE didn't do anything wrong, and if they did, Kristi Noem already took accountability for it. She got fired, right? That's more than good enough, because it doesn't matter. Bullshit on a fucking plate would be good enough. And that's what Kristi Noem is, right? Is the metaphorical shit on a plate. And is performing that function perfectly. And the Democrats are using that plate, right? Whether or not we think it's real, or it should matter, or it should count, or that there's any, right? Us trying to rationalize the situation is an endeavor in fruitlessness. There's no rationality to be had here. We can't vote Kamala. Let's look forward. Let's look towards the future, not focus on the past, and be unburdened by what has been. We can't vote for Kamala, yeah, but this is in reference to, because I'm thinking about this now, right? When I was asking the question of should we vote for people that their platform specifically is going after people, I'm considering that should we actually consider it? It's the idea sounds really disgusting and like a bad strategy, but also, Palestinians can't avoid focusing on the burdens that have been done so much to them by Kamala. Yeah, that's a very good point, Matt. Essentially, the American people don't think Kristi Noem can be responsible because women aren't responsible. Ooh. Wow. I have a hard time pushing back against that. You might be right. That's a good point. That is a really good point. We'll see it. I haven't watched the end of this video. I've watched the 2/3 of it, but I haven't watched the end. Would be interesting to see if that's a perspective that he had considered, because I bet not. And that's a pretty good pushback. The American people just don't respect women enough to believe that they could be accountable, right? It's just a girl, guys, right? And that's some of what he's going to talk about is that same kind of thing. And he's going to talk, I'll let him, good. This is good. All right. With that in mind, let's continue watching the video.
America things. But in the past, when America did America things, they tried the strategy that failed of hiding it, of keeping it secret.
Jake, if there were such a program, it'd be classified and I couldn't talk about it. It'd be totally inappropriate.
Now the fascists have learned that the best way to hide reality is to show everything. Pure transparency, the transparency of what is fake, the transparency of what is real, everything. Which, I mean, we gotta admit, this is genius. They all learned this from their previous TV careers, and it's working.
You've gone from being in debt to a worth of 90 million?
No.
What?
No.
900 million?
No.
Billion?
No.
5 billion.
Well, that's what they say. I don't know if it's true or not. I mean, they say $5 billion. I don't know if it's true.
Something happens to reality when you show everything all the time. And first, many people just won't accept it. They will flat out refuse. You show them everything, and they will deny that what they are seeing is even real.
The assassination was a hologram. Here's what you're forgetting. You're forgetting about the trap door right by his feet underneath that little canopy there.
Look at Christie's Twitter post. This is the post in the prison, and the top comment here, the most liked comment, claims that the image is not real. It seems so unreal that it must not be real, that these are not humans, that this is a green screen. The response to the uncanniness is to declare the image fake, which this is exactly what they want. This plays right into their strategy. Because for the fascists, this is success, to destroy any principle of reality that you might be holding on to, right? This is not about tricking you. Videos like this they only really work on the stupidest of morons if you're trying to trick them. But the real theater here is about getting you to deny there's any principle by which you can measure reality.
What's really sad to me about the sentence that he just said is that my dad is one of those people. My mom was, may she rest in peace, but fell for it, hook, line, and sinker completely. And a lot of, I bet, a lot of people do.
Unconsciously. And that is what's called the hyperreal. Okay, now we got to get to the technicals. We got two terms on the table, especially. There's only two terms that can explain what has been happening: hyperreality and fascism. And it's new fascism. It's an update. It's different from the old kind. But let's start with hyperreality. So hyperreality, you may have heard this term with reference to Jean Baudrillard. However, there's a 99% probability that you don't know what it means, because the Matrix movie and Wikipedia and even popular YouTube lectures, I'm sorry to say, they all invert the meaning.
Why would I need to dream about dinosaurs now? Steven Spielberg has made them. He's filmed them. They're more real than real dinosaurs. They're hyper-real. You would be disappointed if you saw a real Tyrannosaurus Rex after the movie.
So this video, not this one, but the linked one, this will tell you what hyperreality does and doesn't mean. Now, hyperreality is used wrong all the time, and who cares? What are we going to do? But there's a good reason to get it right in this case, because misunderstanding what hyperreality means leaves the reality principle intact, when the purpose of their whole production here, all of this, is to eliminate the reality principle.
Okay, so I wanted to pause and say something about Jane's comment, because it's really, there's a lot to unpack. I won't say much, but there is a lot to unpack there, but I want to say a few things about it. But I wanted to get to the end of this. I want to back it up a little bit. This is the thesis, right? This is the beginning of understanding the concept of the hyperreal. And we want to lock in and understand, because this is an unavoidable terrain through which we, as a plurality of people who are like-minded and would like to direct ourselves toward a single telos, this is a a thing through which we must navigate, and that is the world of others, the plurality, which is informed by the hyperreal, right? There is a, I think of it as a framework, but it's not a. There's a world of truth to which you and I don't have access because it makes no rational sense to us. But that truth framework that we can't even conceive of, recognize as a rational framework, is a framework through which other people understand the world. And we need to be able to communicate to those people. We need to be able to show those people what class consciousness means in a framework that will work with an input that will work with their framework. Right? That's the task here. That's the goal. That's why we are talking about socialism. That's why we are becoming better prefigurative individuals with a more competent understanding of these ideas, so that when we encounter others in the world who are bound by fetters they don't see or understand, we can use ideas and language that fits a framework that we can't even comprehend. That's kind of what we're doing. That's at least it's a large part of the overall project. Now, don't forget that we're also building a future in which we feed each other and house each other. It's not just about trying to convince chuds and liberals, but it is also a necessary part of our struggle. The government doesn't want me to see reality. They banned TikTok, so I wouldn't. 100%, absolutely. I disagree with the entire premise that we see no censorship. See no censorship. I'm not sure what you mean actually with that, Matt. But let me go back to this. The AI. What I wanted to pause and address in the first place, what Jane was talking about with AI. They can't indoctrinate fast enough people to be fascists. They need a whole bunch more fascists so that they can take over the world. That's what they're trying to do right now. And AI is a fantastic tool for accelerating fascism. It recreates racism and stereotypes and gender biases real easily. If there's one thing that AI can absolutely do, it's recreate bigotry. No problem. It can do that all day long. It has a massive pool of resources from which to pull. Right? So, that's the reason why, and this is something that if I could take a moment, I was going to say a little thing, and then it occurred to me that I want to say this too, before I forget, because this is something that's been bothering me for a while. I'm not sure I brought it up yet, but AI and my job, those two things are in contention. I'll take a minute and set the whole thing up, right? With the job that I have at one university, I have said before on numerous occasions, that whole job could be done by AI. I am absolutely not necessary or integral at all in that class. I show up, I check some boxes. The thing that I do for that class as an instructor could literally just be done by AI. That's just 100% true. So that's one part of my reality as an instructor, as a college professor, right? But the other university that I always glaze, I talk really well about the other university that I work for, that I have many classes for. The students are very engaged with the course, and I'm very engaged with them. It's very personalized. I get to know them and their jobs and their lives because they include that in the ethics class that they're taking, and I get to be a part of that. It's magical. It's beautiful. But AI interferes with this relationship that me and the students get to have. Because when students look at the assignment, copy, paste, and then copy, paste, they aren't there. They don't show up to the class, and they haven't engaged with any of the ideas that they need to engage with to be more critical, reasoned beings who better understand their relationship to the world. And as long as AI is in between there, right? And that's why they're trying to get so many young people into using AI now, is so that by the time they get to be 19 to 22 years old and end up in a classroom where somebody like me who gives a shit is going to make them engage with their reality, right? Because that's what I do, is I go, wake up! You're no longer being told what to do. You need to tell me how you feel, right? And a lot of times students are not prepared for that, for anyone to care about them, for anyone to ask about their opinion or their viewpoint or their feelings, and to make them, right? To coerce them almost, right? You'll fail my class if you don't engage. Right. So this is the other aspect of AI in my class. And there, for a long time, the institution has been just on my side when it came to AI in my classroom. I had lots of tools for dealing with the AI, lots of tools for detecting it, and nothing but institutional support. And now I can see some things shifting around where it's starting to get re-excited, and people are talking about how we can implement it into our classrooms. And we're having seminars now where there are one-on-one sessions where somebody will walk you through how to incorporate AI into your classroom if you're intimidated by it. They are trying to ramp this up as quickly as they possibly can, because it is a barrier between a person and understanding the world in which they live. AI is not just a medium, right? We don't have immediate access to the world. This is something that I talk about all of the time. Our mediated existence, that we are mediated through our senses, but we're also mediated by our histories and our time and place. When we have it's a kind of medium that we begin to channel all of the focus of our attention and our intrigue and our curiosity and our creativity into, this becomes the vehicle by which we understand the world. And if people understand the world through the vehicle of AI, my ideas are impervious, because they'll never actually engage with them. They'll plug it into AI, get a response, and they'll be satisfied with that. Because that's how that works. And if you can make that system necessarily racist, sexist, fascist, you have an assimilation engine It's not just an assimilation machine. It's an assimilation machine that ramps up all of your other already going machines. It's the rocket fuel for a coal locomotive. I wonder how good that analogy actually is. Not even gonna think about it. I'm just gonna move on and catch up with chat. Shouldn't be ashamed that a $1 trillion propaganda apparatus tricked you. Yeah, I guess that's true. You should only be ashamed if you never catch on to the fact you're being tricked. And that's, I think, the saddest thing that about my mother's death to me, Eleni. If you know, and that sucks, right? That this is something that I'm about to say out loud. The saddest thing about my mother's death to me is that she died a racist, pedophile supporting fascist who will never have the opportunity to redeem herself. That's done. That book has closed. Chapter is done. You know, there is no redemption arc now. So, and that's the reason why I do the thing I do, and I care so much about my students and about educating people and getting people to be critical is because I can't get everybody. And there are going to be some books that close forever that I can't do anything about, but there are new chapters beginning every day that I can be a part of, that I can affect. The government fed us, but I would be thrilled if the government fed us an abundance of reality. Well, but if you choke on it, and that's kind of the point that they're working up to, is hyporeality, lack of. Well, it's both, and that's the postmodern problem, right, Matt? That's the problem, is that there is what's the other way to describe it? It's when something becomes so embedded with meaning that it becomes meaningless. Art is usually the example that's given for this, that with pastiche, the recreation of other art forms in homage or in satire, which is also its own kind of homage, right? The practice of pastiche is a meaningful expression in art, but when it gets done over and over and over and over and over and over again, then it becomes so overwhelmingly contentive that all of the content blurs into a meaningless milieu. So that, because the last time that this came up in chat, Apolitical Daddy was talking about Star Wars. And even though they'd seen all the Star Wars, they'd never, because I was talking about the archetypes and the tropes of Star Wars, about empire, about otherism, about cultural assimilation, about hero complex, the white knight savior. These are all things that are a part of Star Wars. And Apolitical Daddy is like, I'd never thought about any of that. But that was the point. That's what the art is telling you. But the art, and this isn't Apolitical Daddy's fault at all, right? The art doesn't have the meaning and content and substance that it's supposed to, because it's so overwhelmingly full of that substance that none of the ideas are clear. They're all a blurred milieu of mayonnaise, right? It all looks homogeneous because there's so much of it. You can't see the forest for the trees, kind of thing. Maybe might not be a bad analogy. I don't know if that's a perfect analogy, but maybe not a bad analogy for it. The university needs to profit for their investment in OpenAI. Yeah, that's probably part of it. Talk about how it's about the United States. What's about the United States? Happens with Wikipedia and Google, just too, not just AI. Yeah. We know that we have. Make sure that we know you have read the articles and not just the headline. Grok is that. Yes. Yeah. And exactly, Jane. And that's when you made the first post about AI being a part of it. It's started this whole tangent. Yeah, Grok is that. And some people pay money for it. Right? Think about how good Descript is. Think about how useful and effective this tool is. People are paying money to be mindless, to turn off their ability to think critically. Star Trek works because it's episodic, but like Star Wars is overwhelming. Well, I think that Star Trek misses it too, because my parents, the reason why I'm into Star Trek is because I grew up watching TNG with my parents. It was a family experience. Me and my two sisters, and I have three sisters, but she was already out of the house by the time we were watching TNG. But we would sit together and watch the news. The 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock news would be on usually when we were eating dinner. We finish up with dinner and sit and watch Star Trek. Like family, it's family time. And they still don't. Never got it. Just But then, TNG kind of didn't do a good job. TNG is really pretty lib, to be honest, and imperialistic and capitalistic, right? And that's what Deep Space Nine. I don't want to get too long of a tangent about this. I would love to tangent about this. But that's what Deep Space Nine helps illustrate, is that the Federation does become kind of greedy and capitalistic and interested in empire and trying to destabilize governments. And right, we did that again. We went to space, we got the space communism, and then did empire because we had class consciousness, but we didn't have the race consciousness, the ableness consciousness yet. We still were making those mistakes. Oh, did you talk about how it's the United States? Yes, Matt. That's what the conversation that we were having was, that it was, and actually what brought it up is because we were talking about how that's so funny. What we were talking about is how the United States does empire, but some people point to China and say, well, China, they do the socialism on the way to communism thing. And I was like, they're good, but not only good, because they are also doing the empire. And this is, anyways. Yes, that was part of the conversation. Good conversation with Apolitical Daddy way back then. AI is heading. You have to engage more with the content, not just what it tells you. Yeah, I got you. AI is a headline. You have to engage more with the content. Yes, absolutely. And that's that the students aren't rewarded for doing that. In their whole academic process, they're not rewarded for doing that, because, and this is the other thing, right, back on track so that we can get back to the video. The thing that worries me with it in my institution is the more comfortable my peers are with using AI, the more they will use AI, which will improve their efficiency, right? It enables them to accomplish more tasks terribly, but they've accomplished more, which means that they will undertake more workload. And this will become of their ethos, which will affect my workplace, but it will also be part of the ethos that they condition the next generation with. That what you want is quantity over quality, right? And this is already being bred into the system. That's going back to this other college. And I don't want to say too many disparaging things and then get fired, but it seems to me as though my other peers are all using AI, and my superiors, for checking up on me and for making sure that instructors are doing a job of caring for their students, is something that seems to me that they are doing with AI, right? And this is part of the ethos of that college, which is why I cannot emotionally invest. Well, I can't not. I've tried really, really, really hard to not, but they are people, and I can't not treat people like treat people. So I do, but the emotion that I dedicate to this other class is very restrained. It has to be, because I can't change the course, I can't change the questions, I can't change the assignments, I can't change the readings, I can't change the organization, the layout, I have no power. So if I want to care, I have to invest loads of time and energy and attention to designing around the structure that's already there, giving a lot more workload for my students in addition, and it will be 3 times more work for me to do that for the one class than it is for me to just do a good job on these classes that I do with the other university, right? So when it comes to the class that I teach for that other university, I am emotionally invested. I care about the students. I'm trying to give them detailed feedback that is specific, tailored to their major and their job and the other details that they've shared with me in the course. But again, AI can do that. AI can look at an assortment of paragraphs, pull out a bit of content from that, and regurgitate a response that says, good job talking about these things. Right? AI can do that. It doesn't even have to be philosophically relevant, but that's because of the way that the course is designed in the first place. It's kind of trash. It's kind of a poorly designed course. If I'm being honest, some students really get a lot from it, but that's more a credit to the students. That's a testament to a student's willingness to do the work, regardless of what the work is, those students. But I suspect the vast majority of my students are just copy, paste into an AI engine, paste, copy, paste, post. Right? No thought, no effort, and it's because they're expected to accomplish more too, right? And this is the other part of the reality of the ethos of my my peers playing into the AI, which is more, efficient and increases their productivity. It doesn't. It just it gives them the ability to do a lot of shit and not do any work. Right, because when I'm engaging with my students, I have to think critically about them and who they are and how they're going to understand and think about the language that they've used, right? I have to build a real relationship, right? It's something that you have to, in AI can't do that. Where was I going with that? Fuck. Oh, the ethos of working harder, accomplishing more. Where was I going with that? Fuck. I can't remember. Can do more of the same with Google. And wait, do the same with Google. The thing that makes AI scary, I think, is what that says, is it reads a task for you. With Google, you actually had to read the task. With AI, you don't even have to read the task, and it gives you, okay, I gotcha. You can add to the task and talk about an elf called Pinwheel, and that when the elf called Pinwheel pops up in the assignment, you will know. Oh yeah. So the way that I'm planning to incorporate AI into the classroom is that I would like probably in week 4 or 5. So sometime in a 16-week course. So somewhere kind of early, not in the very beginning, but kind of early. Where the assignment has them programs try to get AI to do philosophy, right? To have the students write some kind of prompt about deontology and see how well AI can understand based on how they have explained how deontology works to the AI engine, how well AI can recreate an understanding of deontology. I think that would be pretty cool, because they have to understand the philosophy well enough to build the prompt. In theory. Now, I also know that they can just get an AI model that would do that. Right. But in theory, right? Also, the product is that AI can't do philosophy, and deontology is a really great example because it has it. Well, maybe not. Anyways, but the student will get to see that the AI does not do a good job of capturing the ideas, both the positive, helpful aspects of deontology, but paying attention to the limitations and the paradoxes therein, right? Which is not going to be something that the AI is trained on. Another thing is if they don't even know what the task is, like I can use AI and walk away with knowledge, but that's how I use it. You can ask them individually questions about the subject, and then if they just copy and paste, they wouldn't know anything. Right, and that's so the strategy that I've used really well with when I suspect that a student has submitted an essay and that I suspect that they have used AI in that essay, I reach out and I say, hey, can we set that your essay has been flagged for AI use? Can we just set up a Zoom and we'll talk about it? Because if they wrote the essay, they'll be able to tell me about what they wrote. They'll be able to explain their reasoning, and they'll know the citations that have been used and what else is, like that. They'll know the details. Or what sometimes happens is I get a student that just responds with an email that says, I did use AI. I'm very sorry. Please, can I have a redo? And because I am a softie, I generally let them redo. I mean, because at the end of the day, I just want them to do the assignment, right? I don't need them to have the 0. At the end of the day, what I really want is for them to engage with the ideas and engage with the content. And if I threaten them with a 0, call them out, and then get them to admit to me in writing in an email that they've used AI, right? That's also kind of helpful for me, especially if after I've given them an opportunity, they turn around and use AI to give me the next submission, which has happened before. In which case, I give them a 0, and I file an incident report, and it goes on their permanent student record. No skin off my nose, right? I gave you a chance and you blew that. Then it's a different kind of lesson. It's a different kind of learning experience. Because while they are in the class, they might have something right. And I don't have it. Mine's all online. I can't have them show up to. I live in Colorado, and the college is in Virginia. In the class, it's really easy to tell who knows and who's been doing the reading and who's, just skating by. It's really easy to tell in person. Yeah, AI doesn't hurt you inherently if you walk away with it with something. Right. There are ways that and I'll let my students use it. So a good example is the semester before last. It wasn't last semester. I had a student who has a job, also is a mom, right, and is trying to do classes. And they reached out to me early on in the semester. And they said, hey, there's this thing, it's called Notebook LM. It lets me put all of my research in one place and gives me helpful summaries for understanding the research that I've plugged into it. Is this okay, or am I violating your syllabus? And we talked, we met via Zoom, we had some conversations, right? We talked about limits, and that student, I had no doubt, wrote their essay. They understood the concepts, and I know because we've had conversations about it, right? And that's something I'm completely okay with. But you have to reach out to me. We have to have a conversation. I need to be a part of your relationship with how AI translates into the artifact. Right, I need to be in that transition from AI to artifact, and you can cite it too. That's another thing that students just don't think about, is that they can use it if they've cited it. Right, you can cite your AI engine research, right, and that's academically credible. And I can't even say anything about that. Right, I don't think that I could. Would want to prohibit students from being able to do that. And I think that they should, and that they should cite it. Right? That's all I'm asking. Really basic stuff. It's like strategy that I just suggested. Yeah. No, absolutely. I don't know that you shouldn't make that assumption about yourself. You never know. And that's as a philosophy instructor, I have been in awe of the insightful and thoughtful, creative things that students with no philosophy understanding are able to divine out of philosophy text. I have been awed by the profound insight that some people have just had because of their other life experiences. Just because you haven't taught doesn't mean you wouldn't have valuable insight on how to have strategies for organizing a classroom. It's really played, but that's the thing, that when I make when I file to have it put on some student's record that they have used AI, it's a plagiarism mark. That's how it's cataloged. It's a plagiarism, because you're presenting artifacts, an artifact that is not your genuine creation. It's been recreated by someone or something else, not you. You have presented some other ideas as having been your ideas. That's what plagiarism is, right? These aren't your ideas because you don't know. You plugged it into an engine and it right, exactly. We got to get back to the video. And good. I wrapped up what I think all of the things that I wanted to complain about with AI. Because it is a concern for me, but let's get back to the video. Plus, I need to use the restroom. And I'm not going to miss anything. I've already seen this part too, so that's going to be fun. But the bot thinks for me now, right? I mean, that's where we're going. That people will have AI that just does their thinking, makes their decisions, decides what groceries to buy, decides what where to live, what all their decisions. Soon, that will be the case, that people just depend on some algorithm to determine for them the best course of action that they will do, without question or critical thought.
Some of you smartasses might say, well,
again, I want to back this up a little bit, right? Because this is right here at the break. This is the thesis. This is what the video is about, is helping us understand how the hyperreal, we can't have regular conversations about what truth is because of our relationship to the hyperreal. More or less.
Okay, now we got to get to the technicals. We got two terms on the table, especially. There's only two terms that can explain what has been happening: hyperreality and fascism. And it's new fascism. It's an update. It's different from the old kind. But let's start with hyperreality. So hyperreality, you may have heard this term with reference to Jean Baudrillard. However, there's a 99% probability that you don't know what it means, because the Matrix movie and Wikipedia and even popular YouTube lectures, I'm sorry to say, they all invert the meaning.
Why would I need to dream about dinosaurs now? Steven Spielberg has made them. He's filmed them. They're more real than real dinosaurs. They're hyper-real. You would be disappointed if you saw a real Tyrannosaurus Rex after the movie.
So this video, not this one, but the linked one, this will tell you what hyperreality does and doesn't mean. Now, hyperreality is used wrong all the time, and who cares? What are we going to do? But there's a good reason to get it right in this case, because misunderstanding what hyperreality means leaves the reality principle intact, when the purpose of their whole production here, all of this, is to eliminate the reality principle. And some of you smartasses might say, well, reality principles are not real either. They're made up, so who cares if they get eliminated? And to you I say, yes, you're very smart, but belief in reality is what keeps these antisocial baboons from actually acting like antisocial baboons.
And that could end up having a stay at Guantanamo Bay.
Now back to Kristi Noem, who wishes to present as a 20-year-old, which is a common witch trope, actually. She has surgically altered her face to look like a 90s porn star while dressing up like a riot cop. And this, it looks fake, but it's not hyperreal, okay? Its purpose is the inverse, to conceal the hyperreal. Now, of course, this image is absurd and it should be fake, as this commenter correctly discerns. But the most basic property of hyperreality is that it's not doubted as a fake. This is the thing that everyone, they flip it. The term is not hyperfake, the term is hyperreal. So when people say hyperreality is the Matrix or virtual reality or video games or Disneyland, they are wrong because all recognize that those things are still fakes or simulations or simulacra. Hyperreality is not fake. It's what's left over. It's where reality used to be. So Kristi Noem here is a fake cop. She's a bimbo in cop clothes. But what is she a simulacrum of? That's the million-dollar question. Is she a simulacrum of a real cop? Well, now, what is a real cop? What makes a real cop more real than a bimbo in cop clothes? Is it that he's a man? Is it that he's trained? Is it that he graduated cop school? Is that he's backed by the authority of the state? Is it that he's accountable in the last instance to democratic procedures and a democratic state? What is the truth? What is the secret that makes a real cop versus Kristi Noem, who is a fake one? Now you see where we're going with this, right? Like, it's better not to ask.
Okay. Also, while keeping all of this in mind, slide into the back of your mind the conversation that we were having on last stream about authority and authorities and the relationship of authority and truth. Corn start. Is us simulating a cornstarch cop? Not sure what you mean there.
And this is straight from the fascist playbook. They like the tension. Isn't a real cop real simply because they have a real uniform? And the question goes back to, now, what makes it a real uniform instead of a fake one? Where it's made, the signs that are on it, who gives it out. Is it really just signs that make a cop a real cop? And I think you'll find it is. Fascists, every single time they come around, they conjure up on the spot new signs for new cops. Now, what makes a real cop? Keep that question, because we've all seen the videos. What makes ICE real cops? Here's where the snake eats its tail. Kristi Noem herself makes ICE real cops. She is fake because they are real. Now, just because they are real because she's fake doesn't mean they can't, for real, shoot you in the head. That's the second image in the sequence. This one was first, and here we go to number 2.
One more piece to this, because a vehicle can be a weapon.
Number 3, don't ask. But this process, right, it should give you chills, because the fake conceals the hyperreal, and the hyperreal means that there is no basis for a cop except for the signs of being a cop. The power to make new cops whenever they want, that's the power of the state. And that's not particular to fascism. But fascists, every single time, they proliferate new kinds of cops. And what's left for the rest of us to do in the hyperreal scenario with cops proliferating? Nothing, right? We can talk about it. The left says, hey, you...
And I think that the real lesson here that he doesn't touch on here is that this whole process dispels the illusory authority that is police in the first place. It is also no more real than ICE or than Kristi Noem. Right? It's the same illegitimacy that is given legitimacy, and then that legitimacy is propped up through state violence.
You can't do that. You're not a real cop, as if that makes any difference to whether they can shoot you in the head. Meanwhile, the right, they don't care if the cops are real. If there's a boot,
Yeah, the material reality that they can hold you to. right? That they have the power to execute you if they fear for their life, and you don't have the right to defend yourself against that. That's what makes it. Yeah. Yep. Gun and qualified immunity, 100%.
Anywhere they'll lick it. And that is the purpose of Kristi Noem, to proliferate power. And it's the purpose of the broken Bluetooth speaker and the Drunk Templar roleplay, Smackdown Grandma, Timu Goobles. Their purpose is to, like, straight up MK Ultra you with the most insulting fakes of reality. Like, only a moron, only a complete moron believes that these fakes are real. But the rest of us will believe that there must be real ones because these are so insultingly fake.
The distinction that I would make there, Eleni, is there's might makes right, and then there's might makes right institutionalized. That's and I think with the qualified immunity, that's the difference, right? What you're talking about is might makes right. In that moment, yes, they are the decider to that extent, like by definition. In you're not wrong about that. But then there's the institutional protection, because after the moment that somebody has you at gunpoint and coerces or kills you, there should be some kind of social concern about the murder, about the loss of life. And generally there is. There isn't when there's systematic protections for those people who are pointing the guns, right? The qualified immunity. And that's the difference. You're neither one of you is wrong, but that's the difference, I think. For me, anyway.
Insultingly fake. But now, anything goes. And they've demonstrated over and over again that anything goes.
The definition of domestic terrorism.
Well, everything that I've said has been proven to be factual and the truth. This administration wants to operate in transparency.
That's not what happened. We all saw what happened.
It absolutely is what happened.
As
they are doing that.
How can you assert with certainty that she was trying to hurt the officer as opposed to she was trying to flee the scene?
If you look at what the definition of domestic terrorism is, it completely fits the situation on the ground.
I wasn't there. I didn't see it. What I'm saying is, how do you know? How can you assert for a fact within hours, before any investigation, this is what happened?
The facts of the situation are that the vehicle was weaponized.
I said that your description, they were attempting to push out their vehicle and a woman attacked them and those surrounding them and attempted to run them over and ram them with her vehicle, is not what we see on the videotape, and it's not.
It absolutely is the facts of what happened on the ground that day. They were there pushing out a vehicle earlier. They had helped each other.
But that's not what you said. That's not what you said.
Yes,
they were pushing out a vehicle.
Absolutely what I said. There's not one.
We all seen the video. I don't need to relitigate it. We've all seen the video.
May you live in interesting times, right? Now to fascism. Hyperreality does not mean fascism, though it does nothing but help. It's not like fascism just arrived now. It's always
So I'm just missing one. What point are you missing? Or did I misunderstand? If something wasn't clear, let me know. And sometimes I just babble. Sometimes I think I've done a good job of explaining something and I haven't.
It's always sort of around. It's like perms. Fascism is like perms. There's always someone out there with a perm somewhere, but you only have to get worried when you start seeing perms on TV again, which comes around in cycles. And just like fascism, perms look like shit and they chemically fry the brains of 19-year-old men first. But what is a fascist? There are too many definitions of fascist. So here's a very easy one for you. A fascist is someone who believes in the fascist sign system.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, see, I understand what you mean now. I wouldn't say wrong, right? You weren't wrong, but there was the one thing, right, that one, I think, important distinction. For me, I think the institutional protection is a big deal. But you're also not wrong. Might make right. That's the real thing, right?
And what's the fascist sign system? They're not all that different from each other, but it's a narrative chain that begins with this signifier, the true nation. And the true nation doesn't exist. It's arbitrarily defined. It's imaginary. But we go from the true nation to other links in the chain. We have the glorious past of the true nation, also mythical, made up. Then we have parasites who are stealing the magic energy of the true nation and preventing it from being the true nation. And finally, we have the violence, the internal militarism, the external militarism required to recover the true nation. This is how we're going to birth a glorious future out of.
Right. The thing that I think is really valuable here, right, is especially if you're watching this and you're looking at the structure of thought and ideas, and it doesn't seem compelling or convincing or like it makes sense. Good. That's why we're here, because this is the framework by which other people understand the world. Americans, right? The American dream, people, bootstraps, pick you up self-buyers, that this is what they believe. That's the framework. This is part of their mythology, part of their identity, even more accurately.
Of the ashes of the old world. That's the narrative arc of fascism. That's the fascist sign system. Now, are these all fascists? No, I don't think they all believe in the true nation. I think more likely they cynically use these signals to advance their personal interests, which are far more important to them than the true nation. At a certain point, though, like a cynical fascist is just a fascist in effect. So who knows? But her cynical fascist, committed fascist, at this point, there's no difference. She is a fascist. And she's launching a new brand of fascism. Bimbo fascism. Bimbo core fashion fascist. And fascism and fashion, these are well acquainted, aren't they? Hugo Boss, Louis Vuitton, Chanel, Balenciaga, Dior. Let us say that luxury brand fashion houses have never been known for principled stances against fascism, which is not an accident. It's because they agree on certain core tenets. Now let's turn to what this guy, Walter Benjamin, said fascism was about. And he went and got himself killed by fascism, so there's cred. Benjamin wrote that the goal of fascism is the aestheticization of politics, which we've been discussing. The goal of fashion brands is similar, not the same, but similar, the commodification of aesthetics.
Yeah, you know, one that gets me an awful lot is an eco-fascist, right? The idea of eco-fascism sounds scary, but it's just that we should all be concerned about the planet, and because that's a thing that matters. Really, that we collectively should care about that. That's what eco-fascism really is. But I haven't heard of diet fascist before, but I've heard of other kinds.
And aesthetics, appearances, it's also the focus of her whole lookbook over here, right? She spent $380 million of taxpayer money, your money if you're paying taxes, on ads starring herself.
Anyone who searches for freedom can always find a home here. But that freedom's a precious thing. We defend it vigorously. You cross the border illegally, we'll find you. Break our laws, we'll punish you. Harm American
She's
citizens.
commodifying her image as fascist.
Now I get it. So, yes. Now I get it. Thank you.
And since the previous administration, she quadrupled the marketing budget for DHS. Fascists, to a T, every single one, they always increase the marketing budget. How much do you think all these flags cost? Now, to be clear, all that money is not going to ads because she's pocketing it, allegedly. She's allegedly pocketing it because she awarded most of this money in a no-bid contract to a front company run by her friend's husband. Surprise, surprise, she's corrupt as shit too, allegedly. But $380 million on ads of herself in outfits. And you'll never guess why she said she didn't open the contracts to bidding, which is normal for government contracts. She said there's a national emergency at the border, right? She can't let ad companies bid for the advertising contracts because it's a national emergency. So now we have a better idea where she got the Rolex. Funnily enough, this echoes exactly what Carl Schmitt, Nazi theorist Carl Schmitt, said. When you got to get something done, just declare a state of emergency and get as much done as possible. If that doesn't describe the last year, I don't know what does. $380 million on advertising. That's the most money of any U.S. federal government spending on contracts other than the military, which, of course, perfectly displays what fascists' values are. First military, then aesthetics. Images, aesthetics, narrative. This is marketing. This is marketing. Fascism is largely marketing. And it's cramming into your mind a world of images that supplants the world of politics. This is the end goal of fascism. That's what Walter Benjamin said it was. However, when some people read this, you'll hear this a lot. I think I want to issue a public correction here. They think that Benjamin here is giving a definition of what fascism is, which I don't think can be true, unless you're the sort of person who also wants to say that fashion is fascist, that America is fascist, Fourth Reich, America, and you can make that argument if you like. You know, I don't hate it. I just don't think it's all that useful because it blurs distinctions instead of analyzing distinctions. But in any case, America also has sought the aestheticization of politics, at least the last 100 years, more than 100 years, because it turns out that capitalists also like the aestheticization of politics, and that's figured by a man named Ivy Lee, the first ever image consultant, the public relations mind control sorcerer. And I have told his entire story in this video. That's kind of a preface to this video. Ivy Lee's largely responsible for driving America into hyper reality. And he's not a fascist. He's a pro-capitalist. So as long as you think those things are different things, I'm going to say Ivy Lee was not a fascist, but he didn't have that big of a problem with fascists, similar to Hugo Boss and Chanel. All these people, they're all in line on a conspiracy to aestheticize. Yeah. So the aestheticization of
the way that I think about the difference between fascism and capitalism, in alluding to that kind of tongue-in-cheek joke there. Yeah, that's 100%. Yeah, purely aesthetics. Went from being progressive champions to nearly as far right as MAGA. Yep. Yeah, Elizabeth Warren, I think, is a really good example too. Right. What was I talking about? Right. Capitalism and fascism. So, there are distinctions, right? They're not the same. But they do seem to work hand in hand really quite well. And it's not impossible for us to conceive of a world without one or the other. But we've never had one and not the other. Really. I'm trying to think of like the point that I'm trying to convey is that like he said earlier, right? When we lump things together, we blur distinctions rather than analyze distinctions. They're not the same, and they have distinctions and should be treated materially differently. But also they are working in tandem, and that's how they work, is in tandem, which is also part of how we should understand them materially. Not as independent beings that are their own distinct independent beings, but as two working together parts of how society reproduces itself. They are a parallel universe on the same bell curve. Yeah. Yeah. I could see that as being a good way to think of it. Yeah, Elizabeth Warren is such a disappointment. Such a disappointment. All right, so yeah. Anyway,
politics, it's not exclusively the desire or aim of fascism. It's also the desire of American capitalism. And it's also the desire of fashion. And it's also the desire of late socialism in the USSR. Hypernormalization, one guy called it. And wherever it appears, the aestheticization of politics is a conspiracy. Conspiracy of elites, conspiracy of the rich. The first clients of the first public relations firm were American capitalists, who are the richest people in history, that is until now, our elites. And this, again, is no accident. The elites of American capitalism and the progenitors of Nazi fascism, they're the same people. The elite class that conspired to turn the weak German democracy into a strong fascist economy included American oil capitalists, American car capitalists, American technology firms, also German chemical capitalists. They didn't do this because they were fascists, necessarily. They didn't necessarily believe in fascism, but they do support it. They don't have a problem supporting it because fascism is good for business. From the 1920s to the 2020s. There's a video from my friend, Epoch Philosophy, that is about just that. Well, the 2020s. To be clear, the 2020s, Epoch Philosophy covers Palantir. The 1920s equivalent would be Standard Oil. It's a century apart, but fascism is profitable. No surprise there. So, question. What is the relation between the overproduction of images and fascism? And the answer to that is pretty easy. It's just to seduce the mass public so that they don't have the energy for politics at the end of the day. That's what all of this is for.
So, that, and to be clear, I'm not, you know me, I'm not trying to change anybody's mind, but I respect you understand their position and disagree. This is a little bit of pushback that I would have for that, because they can release, because I believe part of where you're coming from is that the public never has all of the information. It's always carefully filtered, and we don't have the whole picture. So you know, and I don't want to discredit that or push against that. That's absolutely true. It is the case that we don't have all of the truth. But they are giving some of the truth and a lot of bullshit. And the plan is to inundate so that we can release some of the Epstein files, but then we're also going to do this. We're going to pass this anti-trans legislation. We're going to have war in Iran. We're going to, we become overwhelmed by all of the truth and the bullshit. And it's the goal here is that our minds are constantly exhausted with the effort of discerning material reality from bullshit that we can't do anything about either. That we spend, and I feel this all the time, right? At the end of my day, when I'm done with my schoolwork and I've got caught up on the news and I'm just trying to unwind and just get ready for bed, right? Let my mind just stop being so stressed. Is that as I'm trying to decompress, I cannot stop thinking about all of the things that I've encountered throughout the day that I still don't know whether are true or not. That I have a list of things at the end of the night that I'm going to have to look up, because these are things that I found out about that might be true material things that require my attention, and they might be bullshit. And I need to be able to tell what that difference is. And so tomorrow morning when I wake up, I have a full plate. And then there's other things that happened while I was asleep. And now I'm trying to get caught up in all of that. And I never have time to do anything about that, because I spend so much of my time trying to figure out what's real and trying to make sure that I have a reasonable material understanding. And it's not that I can't, or right, what they do or what they give is not the concern that I'm concerned with in the video. What I'm concerned with is, at the end of the day, how do I transition my information input machine into somebody that can do things in the world? Because right now I'm spending so much time sifting through shit. I'm not doing much, right? Besides my job and trying to survive. There's a lot that I would like to be doing, but I don't even know where to get started, because I've spent so much of my time sifting shit. And again, not trying to change your mind on that this is real, or that you need to agree with this thesis. Just a little modicum of pushback. Every defense contractor has a campus on every exit on the highway. Yeah. Campus on exit. Not what I thought you meant. Okay, let me scroll up. Yeah, absolutely. If I knew the demographic of her district, it would explain everything. Harvard University, MIT. Gotcha. Big pharma company as a headquarters here. Every defense contractor has and that makes sense, as a campus on every exit here on the highway. Gotcha. Yeah, that's what she brings home the bacon. But that at the end of the day, she's gonna maintain that position because she brings home the bacon for her constituents. And I get that. I mean, not that I'm sympathizing with anybody in the situation, but I understand the situation, and that's it's so deeply entrenched at this point that that's just the status quo now. Absolutely. They're trying to information overload us. Yes. Flood the zone. Right. There you go. Yeah, back to the video.
They make you react so that you're too tired to ever act. It gives you enough information so it feels like you've acted on the information when you haven't done anything. The thing that fascism is for, and the one reason that it exists, is to absorb the public's belief in politics, while at the same time leaving the political situation unaffected, right? Big corporations want the political situation to remain unaffected because that's the political situation that allowed them to become big corporations. Like the Nazis. Let's just pick a random example. The Nazis blamed all the problems on Jews who controlled everything. So presumably these would be like wealthy banking lineages and all that, but they didn't kill any of them.
Fuck the police! They can't control! We gotta take it back! Everyone get up and let's go!
That must have been it. I love lemon pound cake for the record. And it is clear that my alerts aren't working for whatever reason. I don't know why they wouldn't be working. It says that it's connected. It says that my chat's working, but clearly it's not. The timers are working, so there's something.
Fuck the police! They can't control! We gotta take it back! Everyone get up and let's go!
Maybe cops isn't included. Nope, cops, police should all trigger it. Wild. I don't know. It's been acting really wonky lately. Yeah, and I'm guessing maybe that doesn't trigger because the E is in front of the word, so it thinks it's all the one word, but it. Yeah, it's at the police, not, yeah, exactly. Plus, it's probably on cooldown. Because that one's 600 seconds. So we've got a few minutes, but but thank you for playing with my alerts. I'll get them fixed out. Again, it's just I need to sit down and take some time and figure out what is it? Firebot. That's it. Message to the police on the back end, and I'll fix it. To the police. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'll go in and take a look. I don't know when I'm gonna have time. Maybe I might have time this weekend to actually do some of that. We'll see. I will endeavor to do so.
Killed the poor Jews. They killed the bakers and the candlestick makers in Poland, which that doesn't change the situation for corporate owners in Germany, except by benefiting them, by giving them access to slave labor. But today, the fascists will tell you that this is all about immigration.
Immigration fraud. Not just fraudsters who stole from the...
They've infiltrated our entire country.
You will be caught. We will hunt you down. We'll find you. We'll punish you.
And divert billions of dollars away from American citizens.
They cause every problem in the homeland, the parasites in the homeland. But it's not, of course, these immigrants. It's not these 10 immigrants that have more wealth than the combined wealth of 35 million other Americans. And those 35 million Americans, if they turn on the TV, they're watching this every single day. They don't see these guys. They see the bad hombres blasted into their eyeballs.
The amount of fraud in Minnesota is unprecedented. It's individuals that bought luxury homes and took vacations, and they all did it using somebody else's money.
Some immigrants are taking all the shit. They're buying stock. They're buying real estate. They're making assets more expensive and unreachable. But these names, these images, these are never going to be integrated into the fast system of signs, which is why capitalists will always side with fascists if the going gets tough. In the last instance, this is all really a simple equation of energy. Humans are like the rest of animals. They want to be lazy. They're not particularly rational. So if you offer the humans a hit of pleasure, they'll make that trade. They'll give up their energy for a bit of feeling.
Here are some of the most dangerous people in the world. You can see they have their tattoos. MS-13 is tattooed on their foreheads.
Here and to incarcerate them and have consequences for the violence that they have perpetuated in our communities. I also want everybody to know, if you come to our country illegally, this is one of the consequences you face.
They see this and they think, aha, yes, law and justice, this is fair, I'm on board. And these images are really cheap to put up and to get into your eyes. Back before images were cheap, the masses, they would often get restless. And when they're restless, they might decide to exchange their energy for something else, like politics, you know? They would form blocks and parties and march and strike and take over government buildings. But we came up with a better idea, the best idea yet. What if we just talk into cameras? What if we talk into cameras, we can have conversations, we can have debates and exchange slogans and images.
Attempting to push out their vehicle and a woman attacked them and those surrounding them and attempted to run them over and ram them with their vehicle is not what we see on the videotape, and it's not.
It absolutely is the facts of what happened on the ground that day. They were there pushing out a vehicle earlier. They had helped each other.
But that's not what you said. That's not what you said.
Yes,
they were pushing out a vehicle.
Absolutely what I said. There's not one thing.
We all have seen the video. I don't need to relitigate it. We've all seen the video.
And everyone can go to bed happy, feeling like they participated.
And this can look good if you're using this much of it and in the right places, but that is not what they're doing at all.
So you have Nancy Mason. Who else do you have that does Republican face?
Oh, Nancy Mace, Laura Loomer, Kristi Noem.
Right.
God, there's Marjorie Taylor Greene. Hers is like a different kind of tragic.
Kristi Noem. Now, I find it hard to believe that anyone actually believes in her. Like you have to have a crayon lodged in your brain to believe in her. But while almost no one believes in her, she still gives us something to talk about, doesn't she? I'm talking about her right now.
In her skin-tight shirt, with her hair perfectly curled and coiffed. I'm embarrassed for how she's presenting herself.
Noem is also taking heat for her watch. It's a $50,000
Fascism needs everyone. It's a group effort. What do you think this video is? It's all I have. If I don't discuss Kristi Noem, if I say, hey, turn off the computer and go focus on real life, that is to not exist in this reality. If you turn off this video, if you stop participating, you don't exist. And that's hyperreal. So while you're at it, you might as well comment, add yourself to the view count, send it to your dad, send it everywhere. Smash that like button or don't. Because in the hyperreal, there is no choice that's a non-aesthetic choice. Politics from here on out is an aesthetic choice. You hear vibes, you hear the sense of words, you like them or you don't like them, and you go drift in the direction of the things that you like. That's how we arrived here, isn't it? Isn't that a perfect description of how we arrived here? Just people drifting towards words they like. Now, just because it's hyperreal doesn't mean that we have to accept fascism. Hyperreal doesn't mean not real. It means extra real. But we don't have to accept fascism, just like we don't have to get a perm just because perms are in fashion, you know? Personally, this is an activity I find useful, which is to break messages down symbolically, because at least that helps you to see how arbitrary it is. It helps me to see how arbitrary it is. And if you look at the gears in the machine, it's pretty shoddy craftsmanship. It's not very well put together. It's not very well thought through. For example, why don't we talk about who is stealing all of your stuff? As an American, where is your magical hoard of resources going? Nick Fuentes wants you to think it all went to Israel.
We are done giving all of our money and all of our attention and all of our emotional bandwidth to you and your tragedies.
Kristi Noem, well, she changed in the last few months, but generally it's illegals taking it, and now it's Somalis. Somalis are diverting your stuff that your ancestors have sent to you.
Fake companies and fake nonprofits and divert billions of dollars away from American citizens.
Which, you know, Some Somalis did, though they were already going to jail for it before any of this happened. But let's just admit, okay? Let's just admit some Somalis did a harmful thing, mostly. But in the scheme of things, this is 78 people splitting up $250 million.
Yeah, it's a good spot to pause that. Yeah, and that's good. Things to ponder is right, because okay. I thought that I had a little bit to say, but I've got a little bit more to say than I thought. And I want to be kind of careful and thoughtful real quick, because I very much respect plastic pills. Very, very much highly respect them. But I don't always trust his analysis, and I don't think that he's got the whole picture. But I see him as somebody who understands the world in a kind of way that makes sense to me, right? That helps me in a kind of way, and has a much greater understanding of philosophy, I believe. Right, this is somebody that has dedicated more of their time and energy into a particular kind of focus, to have a particular kind of understanding, whereas I wanted to become a teacher, learn what I needed to become a teacher, and then from there have expanded upon in my spare time as a hobby. Right, so I don't want to be I'm not quick to be critical of him and his viewpoints, because I believe he's got a better understanding of philosophy than me. I also don't think that somebody's understanding of philosophy necessarily privileges them in any way, necessarily, right? So like what I was saying to Eleni, that just because you don't have experience in the classroom doesn't mean that you might not have insight or be insightful into developing strategies that one might use in the classroom, right? We all have a wealth of information and experience that is unique to us, that cannot be quantified or evaluated in that kind of way easily. It certainly can't be dismissed. All this is a long way of saying is that I'm not certain that anything in this video is right. Right, and I don't want to come off as though I'm trying to convince anybody that plastic pills is right. But I believe this is very insightful, and it has been very helpful for me in understanding my material relationship. And where we're going with the video is, this is helping us better understand how automatons, right, those people who are people but don't make any kinds of critical decisions about themselves or about the world or about what they should do, the automatons that are just sheeple who go along with the status quo, right? We need to understand those people. And this video does a really good job of helping us see the signals and signs that those people understand, that those people use to navigate the world that they don't think about. Right? Is a good way for me to think about this theory. Don't have to completely agree. Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, you don't have to completely agree at all to just reflect on these ideas, because they're, I think, helpful. They've been helpful for me, and I think they'll be helpful for us in our conversations going forward. Absolutely. I was a student, but a teacher has a really different experience. But I mean, but a student has But my pushback for that is when I am thinking about changes that I want to make in my classroom and designing the course, the first thing I do is I put myself in a student's position and imagine what the thing is going to look like from because that's my experiences as a student has been very helpful in me figuring out how to build a course that students like, that appeal to them, right? Thing that I use when talking about computers. I'm a hobbyist and know a lot about assembling computers, but there's nobody on earth that knows everything about computers. If I know 20% and somebody else knows 99%, I might know the 1% they don't. Right. Good. Exactly, Matt. And this is, maybe this will be helpful for some other people too, in their dealing with their life, right? So I have imposter syndrome all of the time. As a professor, as a professional academic, as a professional philosopher, as a professor of any kind, my therapist actually helped me have this same kind of realization that there just because some other philosophy academic knows a whole lot about this other thing doesn't mean that I'm not a philosophy academic because I don't know about that thing. Right. And I used to be very self-conscious when people would bring stuff up that I didn't know about. I would feel useless, worthless. I would feel like a failure, like a fake. You know, everybody seems to know what this thing is, and I'm the only one who doesn't. And that's in most of those cases, that's not the case. Right, as somebody who knows an awful lot about philosophy now, because I bring stuff up all the time where I just throw a term out or throw a phrase out, and people just assume, go along with it. They nod or they chuckle, and I'm, you know, you don't know what they know. You don't know that they got it. You know, what I had to do to get my confidence back, to help me avoid some of that imposter syndrome, is for me to, one of the things that I do is I practice and rehearse the things that I do know well. I don't know that. Right? When I come across something that I've never heard of before, an author, right? So somebody will come into chat, right, and bring up an anarchist philosopher, and I've never heard of them. And instead of me feeling sick, what I can do is I can find things in that remind me of other philosophies I do know, and other authors I am familiar with, and other, because I am knowledgeable and I have read a lot of stuff and I am a credible authority. There are institutions that will argue on my behalf. Like, they printed out a whole piece of paper to prove that I knew some stuff. They made me pay $200 and something for it. Right? You know, there's no reason for me to be so down on myself, because I might know the 1% that other Michael Sandel or whatever, this other famous philosopher who seems to know everything about everything, right? I'm not Bertrand Russell. I can't be an authority on all of the subjects of philosophy. But for me to do that, I would have to deem some of the things in philosophy as not real philosophy, which is what Bertrand Russell did. How he went about doing it, but... Oh, fucking Bertrand Russell. Yeah, like, because brain surgeons doesn't exist, mean heart surgeons. Yeah, yes. That's another good point, Elaine. Another way to think about it. Well, thanks. I really like talking to you, too. If you're talking to Matt, either way. I don't understand. Yeah. Yeah, we're all and something that I try to remember is that the perspectives of others, right, is valuable in itself because it's always knowledge to which you don't have access. That's something that I try to remember, is that no matter whose knowledge or who it is that's speaking, or right, that's knowledge that nobody else has access to, right? And when people convey their ideas, there's a beauty there that like a sunset, that a lot of people, I think, don't take the time to see the beauty in, right? Everybody's viewpoint is that way, right? Like a snowflake is uniquely remarkable in an amazingly unrecreatable way. Just and that's a little bit humbling, right? One of those humbling things about being in a world of others, right? You know, people who are in my position often see themselves as in a transactional model, right? That's I think that a lot of instructors might fall into this, where they begin to believe that they are the knowledge holders and that they distribute the knowledge to the students. And that's not the way that knowledge or education works. It's not a banking exchange model. You can't touch the world without being touched. When you are teaching, you are learning, right? If you're doing it right. If you are teaching, you are learning. That's dialectics, baby. Yeah, two heads are better one. We are, yeah. Not about being right. It's about working together towards truth, towards common goals, towards exactly. Unless you're right. Exactly. Okay, good. Let's get back to the video. We're getting there. We're almost caught up to as far as I've seen. I think I've seen to the end of this section, but I haven't seen the conclusion.
It's a lot. Yes, they should be punished to restore order. However, Kristi Noem sent $220 million of her quadrupled marketing budget from DHS to a front company managed by her friend's husband after awarding him a no-bid contract.
Individuals were allowed to come into this country and set up fake companies and fake nonprofits and divert billions of dollars away from American citizens.
This is published, reported by ProPublica. Now this $220 million has produced one commercial, okay? $220 million, and this is what you got. Now, this is more than it cost to make the entire Barbie movie. In fact, this is as much as it cost to make the movie Titanic, or the boat, the Titanic. This
a little bit more than an F-35, just for point of reference. Not that that's relevant to anything going on the news or anything.
This is what the American taxpayer has received in exchange.
To the titans who built our cities.
And look at this. Look at this. Try not to go insane. We have wall-to-wall coverage of Feeding Our Future, okay? The Minnesota fraud case. Look at that. This is a big deal. Big news day. We have New York Times, Associated Press, Fox News, CBS, okay? Big news. Now let's search for Kristi $220 million commercial. DHS ad contract. Okay, look, what do we see here? ProPublica, good. Capital Journal, what the hell even is that? a Bloomberg.com byline, some back page on Salon. That's it. It's the same amount of fucking money.
Two
Who even cares? You can say, oh, well, that's messed up. I can say, yeah, that's messed up. But the target fascist audience very clearly does not care about this parallel. Even if they were to know about it, they wouldn't care. Because it's a long tradition for heritage Americans to defraud the federal government. And in this unspoken agreement, heritage Americans have been born here with the right to cheat.
The Eiffel Tower as a unit, I think, is just absolutely fantastic. Cost 40 Eiffel Towers, by the way. Wait, the Titanic cost a whole country healthcare? Right. Well, in like, when you think about that kind of reality, when you think about that math, how the fuck is capitalism still around? Why has anybody let this persist? What? Wow. That's wild. B-2 bomber cost $50,000 per hour to operate. Oh, yeah, then 80, right, yeah, because, yeah. Yeah, when I first said it, I thought that I had a number on my head, but the number I had was wrong. I went and looked it up, and it was... yeah, you're right. We've had that conversation. We were just talking about that on Wednesday.
Look at all these slave masters posing on your dollar. Get it? Look at all these slave masters posing on your dollar. Get it? Look at all slave masters posing on your dollar. Get it? Look at all these slave masters posing on your dollar. Get it? Look at all these slave masters. Hey.
Had a little bit of lag there. I hope it wasn't. More money than the GDP of Argentina. Yeah, not even the richest.
Let the federal budget be a cash machine for African immigrants, right? Oh, wait. Unless... every time it just comes along, they tell you where your magical energy has gone. Where's your faith in the future? Where's your mana? Where did it all go? The gypsies tried to take it, the Jews, the immigrants, the illegals, the Haitians, the Somalis. In contrast, whites, even immigrants, if they are white, they're fine to divert federal spending to themselves because when they do it, they earned it. God. Again, I've said this before. In hyperreality, contradictions don't matter, ultimately. Contradictions, hypocrisy, they ultimately add up to nothing because they have no effect. But how do you explain it? There's a few theories that are based on psychoanalysis from the mid-20th century. And they associated the libidinal outbursts of fascism with sexual repression, because of course they do. And I'm not completely sold on that, but I don't know how the authoritarian personality brain can see this information and decide that the top priority is all these immigrants that are trimming hedges and delivering Uber Eats. Like the only thing that makes sense is that they see this information sexually. They're drawn to strength, and this is an expression of strength here. But of course, they don't have it because they're down here. They're a little limp dick. So why would you live in a world where you have a little dick and these guys all have this big dick going up?
Yeah, no, I can't either. I think that's exactly right. Or another way to think about it, necessary to dismantle systems that work in order to maintain and prop up this system. Because if the system worked, we wouldn't have to prop it up. It would stand on its own. Why must this system dismantle socialist and communist states right? Why can't it just stand on its own? Because it can't. Every socialist country will fail if capitalism exists, right? It's a problem with capital, not with socialism, because capital cannot abide its existence. If people understand and can see an example of an alternative way, people will always, always, always choose not capitalism. If people had the opportunity and option to see not capitalism and capitalism, people will always, always, always choose not capitalism. Because your needs behind a paywall so that somebody else can make profit will never make sense to me, will never make sense to the average Joe or Jane or Tina or Samuel or whatever, right? Never. If you can see people working in mutual cooperation for everybody's benefit and everybody's needs are met, that's the system you will choose. Every time. Every time. If we have publicly owned businesses, this couldn't compete, so they are saying it's better. Wait. Yeah, capital is about monopolization. So the ideas of capitalism are all contradictory. So the idea that capitalism is free market and gives you a choice of competitors is itself a myth. It doesn't. Whoever is the cheapest, most efficient, most exploitative producers are the producers that give us the illusion of options. That's it. We get no freedom, we get no choice, we get no opportunity to control our consumption at all under capitalism. We have these extra steps that give us the illusion, and that's part of the hyper-real narrative, right? And this is, in a lot of ways, is kind of bringing this all together. Because, well, I'm not ready to make that connection yet. Not ready to make that connection yet. Yeah, free markets, actual free markets are antithetical to capitalism, because capitalist markets that when Adam Smith is talking about the free hand of the market or the invisible hand of the market, what Adam Smith is not talking about an external property of the world in the way that we think about gravity or terminal velocity. And that this is how economics has been mythologized, in that there's this invisible hand of the market. Adam Smith never said anything like that. What Adam Smith pointed to was there was this phenomenon as though there was an invisible hand, but Adam Smith goes on to explain what that invisible hand is, and that's the whims of investors and capitalists deciding whether or not they are going to shift their fortunes or if they're going to sit on it. That's what the invisible hand of the market, how he was able to identify the phenomenon of markets shifting. And he first said that seemed like there was this invisible hand controlling, but then he later goes on to explain it's not invisible, it's not some external property, it's people's ambitions or lack thereof. That's what we see. I'm getting really loud. I'm starting to top out my mic. I don't know why I'm getting louder as the stream goes on longer. Commerce will exist under capitalism, but workers owning the means of production is the opposite of capitalism. Yes. Capitalizers might exist under socialism. So I think that, so I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but this is something that I differ from other leftists and other communists quite significantly, ideologically. And one of the differences that I have that's different from most other leftists and communists and socialists is that I don't think that we need to do away with money. I don't think that money is a problem at all, right? The idea of a classless, stateless, moneyless society doesn't need there not to be money. What that ideal needs is for people's basic needs to not be behind any kind of paywall, right? So that there are not work vouchers or labor vouchers or company tokens, or right, because if we just abolish money, we need some other system of exchange in our current capitalist system, and whatever that thing is will be as bad as money. It's not the money that's the problem. The relationship between people and their basic needs being mediated by anything is the problem. And so I argue, actually, that we can have a socialist or communist utopia wherein people build yachts because some people want to own yachts, and those people would probably need some kind of large amount of fiduciary asset that would convince somebody else to participate in labor for something that they themselves are not going to enjoy. And I don't have a problem with that. I don't see the existence of yachts as necessarily problematic. I see the existence of yachts or Titanics in lieu of healthcare systems as being problematic, right? So that I believe that we can have a system where people's basic needs are met. We have systems of organization to make sure that those things are taken care of and managed well. And I think that on the side of that, we can have an economy where people do stuff besides what they do to maintain, right, so that they can earn a little bit of extra something that they can turn into something else, right? That they can, and I don't think that that's a problem as long as none of that has any interference into people's access to their basic rights. Yeah, money is not just important, but necessary, right, Matt? It's an important tool for socialism, absolutely. They're contradictory in the way they aren't even remotely the same thing, yeah. And that's one of the things that I often refer to really quickly. This is a term, right? We've talked a little bit about the use of terms and how they're helpful and sometimes not because they flatten whole ideas. But one of the terms that I throw out is internally antagonistic contradictions. This is a Marx idea, Marx's way of describing capitalism, not as something which is just immoral, right? Because that's true and doesn't need a whole lot of scientific analysis, actually. But if we want the science of what capitalism is and does, then what reveals itself is the ideology has tenets of it that are internally contradictory to an existent system, right? It it is an immoral system. But aside from that, it is not just logically inconsistent. It is logically inconsistent, but it's also the paradoxes therein are internally antagonistic. In it, destroy and undercurrent the things that it's supposed to accomplish. It is, in every conceivable way, always going to be a failed project that will always create inequality and always depend on oppression. Must necessarily, because of the internal antagonisms inherent to the way that works. It's not simply that it says one thing and does another. That is true of most of capitalism. But those things aren't just that it's not the same, they're self-defeating. Yes, some people conflate the two where they become collapsed. And that's with Wednesday's stream. I really appreciated spending a little bit of time, talking about that nuance and talking about the stuff there. I need to get back to the video. I love tangents, but I need to get to this video. We're coming on the conclusion.
Fascism, you get to be on the same team as the guys with the big dick, the guy with the big chainsaw, and they're going to help you annihilate these disgusting subhumans. Isn't that world better? That's more fun, because ultimately your world is an aesthetic choice. You got to choose whichever world you want to live in. This is you. And this is further evidence, of course, of the hyperreal, that you get to just pick the world that you want. The world's an aesthetic decision from here on. In days gone by, there wasn't this choice. There wasn't the burden of choice. Your grandpa's a baker. Your dad's a baker. You're a baker. How peaceful. And they miss that peace.
Well, and the choice of aesthetics, going back to the comment that Matt made earlier, right? This is exactly the critique that we should be having of Democrats. Exactly the critique that we should be having of electoral candidates who are just not the other bad guy, rather than,
So why not stage a play where we can all return to not having a choice? Even though, of course,
Look at all these slave masters posing on your dollar. Look at all these slave masters posing on your dollar. Look at all these slave masters.
not having a choice is a choice.
If you want to move into that more traditional way of living, you have to learn to depend on your husband and buy a house within means of his income and not two incomes, if that makes sense. And just really sticking with your budget.
That's a great point.
All right. Now, last thing. It's too bad this is at the end. I find this part the most interesting. And I think most people will have been gone by now. But it's the evolution of the sign system, the fascist sign system, because it's evolving. It's been 100 years, so it's bound to happen. And it's becoming more inclusive. Woke fashion. Speaking of this image is not, I mean, it's not necessarily fascist to wear this, but it's also, it happens to double as a stock fascist symbol, like this. And you probably know this, but fascism has always had really just one official role for women, and that's breeders. So this, I mean, it's not very breederly, right? This is breaking the mold. Fascist women are supposed to be officially breeders. Now, this doesn't mean that fascist women don't do a lot of other things unofficially. It's just that those jobs for women don't make it into the sign language. The esteemed breeders, what do they look like? They are modest, plain. Often they have just a tad of chub to signify that they're healthy and docile. Look at this. If you need a contrast, same time period. Now, Christy is the opposite of this image. She's too old. She's too skinny. She's too ostentatious. All that, and she's wearing the masculine signifiers of a cop or a soldier or a cowboy. Now, none of this would fly in the traditional fascist science system, at least.
So, going back to Elaine's comment earlier about how Noam can't work as a successful scapegoat because she is just a woman. But what Plastic Pills is going to argue here, though, is that she's not. She's become a symbol for so much more, right? And it's a kind of new, inclusive fascism. But let me get caught up with chat because there's a whole lot of stuff going on. Capitalism strangles economies to the point where capitalism is anti-economic. It wants to destroy cash flow, which is why when Republicans are in charge, you get recessions and lack of cash flow. Yes, so this is part of the cycle of boom and bust, which isn't a flaw of capitalism. It's how it's supposed to work. Because what happens is those, let me zoom out. Those that are in control historically have had to share some with the middle class. This isn't as big of a problem now, but it was a problem over and over and over and over again for decades, where the ruling class had to share some of the spoils with the merchant class and the white collar managerial class, and right, they had to share some, and so there was naturally in capitalist systems there was naturally some amount of trickle down. So to remedy the trickle down effect, what happens is the people at top let the money flow down until the people at the lowest begin to get some purchasing power, at which point the people up top dump all of their money, flood the economy, and buy up all of the material stuff, the factory equipment, land. This is when they acquire debt, right, for these people who now believe that they have purchasing power in an economy that's about to belly up. And then what happens is we have all of these people with all of this money, but now all of the stuff costs 10 times as much. And all of the people who had all of the money before dumped all their money and now own all of the stuff. And this is where our system of boom and bust comes from, is from the ruling class remedying the occasional trickle-down effect that does inevitably happen in a capitalist system. Right? That there is some money that unavoidably flows over and can't be extracted to the top. And so to solve that problem, they've invented a system that occasionally flips. And they all know. They all know what side of the board to be on when the board flips. And the rest of us don't. We get caught holding the bag full of money, right? And they've got all of the stuff that we need. And we'll now have to pay all of our money so that we can get basic treats, little things, right? That's exactly by design how it works. Yeah, when people hear me say capitalism is anti-economy, they get confused, right? But that's what it is, exactly. Owning factories and have anything to do with economics. It's just a model of production, not an... Yeah, right, yes. Yes, also. No, you're right on track. Perfect. You've got an insightful understanding of how capitalism doesn't work.
So how do we reconcile this new contradiction, or this new apparent contradiction? There's a semiological answer to be found here. I found it in Christie's nickname, Ice Barbie. That's what the left side of the political spectrum calls her condescendingly. Now, coincidentally, Barbie is another sign that I have discussed at length. I didn't plan this. There's a bunch of callbacks in this video. None of it was planned. It's all just coming to a head because we're at the end of the world, I guess. If I have any cards left, I'll put it right here. Now, like Christy, Barbie is a type of split sign in that it's split along the axis of being at once hyper feminine, erotically feminine even, but she can also come in an assortment of masculine outfits in what was a relatively conservative society. And in fact, she did men's jobs decades before any women actually did them. At least in America. You can see this again for contrast. If we map Barbie then, part of her form goes over here, the hyper feminine, while associated signs, they go on the other side over here. Now, people trying to sell you a Barbie will tell you that Barbie is a feminist icon because she's able to do things that men can do, even though she's a toy. And if toys can do it, then girls will become women who can believe they can do man things too. And what do you know? It worked on Christy.
As your new president, we are going to
punish you. He will hunt you down.
Thank you so much. Okay, so
Christy believed that with enough plastic and enough commercials of her dressed in men's clothes, now she's ready for duty. And note, this is interesting. These state-sanctioned images of Christy, they present her only in these scenarios. She's got grandchildren. She's got children. I've never seen them. Looked at a lot of pictures. She's never at home, right? This is, of course, a choice. So we can take her plastic face and her 90s porn star makeups with all her outfits, which are militaristic, and they fall way on the other side of sexual difference. And you might wonder, why does sexual difference matter here? Sexual difference is one of the pillars of, well, not it's a pillar of conservatism in general, sexual difference. You know, we have fatherland, we have the father of the nation, we have authority and hierarchy and militarism. And that's, yeah, conservatism too. They want to keep this binary intact. And now, how do we map this onto America? Like, the Central American myth is that of the frontier, the wild, dark, untamed frontier that civilization symbolically penetrates the inner dark continent.
I was hoping we were going to come to a better stopping point, but we're not going to for a minute. So I think I have an example of hyperreality when the Democrats kept saying Kristi Noem has been fired, maybe to claim some kind of victory, when in reality she still works there right now and is just transferring to foreign policy next month. Right. That, I think, is a part of it, yes, because we have bits of truth. There are bits, kernels of truth to the idea that Kristi Noem's been fired. She wasn't. Really, in any kind of meaningful sense. Right, she's not going to take any kind of pay cut, no leave, right? She's going from one job to another job. She wasn't. But there's enough of the truth in the shit, right? So the truth is being presented to you by the Democrats, who are trying to establish some kind of narrative. And they are, like I was saying earlier, they're referring to the same plate of shit that the Republicans are taking out and championing around and using. The Democrats have no problem just using the same icons and idols and imagery and adopt everything from the right. They don't care. And the part of the reason that we've talked about this, it's been a while, so let me just take a moment. It's because Democrats must capitulate to the right. They don't want to spend any of their time trying to get votes from people who don't like Republicans, because those people are already going to vote for the Democrats. They're going to vote blue no matter who, right? The Democrats spend all of their time appealing to the right. and appealing to right-wing voters. Because they don't have to care about appealing to the left. That's not going to get them elected into office. For them to get into office, they must capitulate to capital, which means that they are capitulating to Democrats or to Republicans. Democrats are going to vote for them no matter what. So Democratic leaders don't have to do anything and don't do anything to reach out or appeal to or give a shit about what Democratic voters want. They are concerned with getting the voters from the right. So they capitulate right. By default. Republicans are not going to get the votes of these people. And they don't care, right? They're also fighting for the same votes. Republicans and Democrats are fighting for the same votes. And they're fighting for the votes of the fascist, racists, pedophiles. Apparently. But yes, I think that is a good example of hyperreality. Like I said to someone, if you do rent control, BlackRock already owns the houses. They could just stop renting, and they do, right? That's exactly what they do to inflate the prices in whole cities, right? They just stop renting and leave houses and apartments vacant so that they can artificially inflate the rent. Yeah, absolutely.
And this is where we get the cowboy sign. And again, this is no accident. The cowboy is another outfit in Christie's fascist dream closet. The cowboy in the Western symbolizes the law in the lawless land. Anyway, maintaining the laws of sexual decorum in accordance with nature, this is a conservative anxiety. They're absolutely obsessed with sexual difference, which is why they hate feminism, gays, transgenders. Sexual difference is always at the top of their anxiety list. Now let me show you, this is semiotically why Christie Nome is an evolution of fascism and even conservatism. Look at this. We're expanding the acceptable signs. How about that? So sexual difference is central to conservatism, and conservatism is the central ethic of fascist aesthetics. In traditional fascism, we have equal and opposite gender positions, masculine and feminine. And what is it to be masculine? It's to be...
I was trying not to pause the video. But then I typed the word that was going to require me to pause the video anyway.
Political, to be strong, militaristic, giving orders to those below you, taking orders from those above you. Men take their place in public and in the nation. So this is, of course, what the good woman looks like. All of these signifiers. Be married, be obedient to your husband, and when he goes into public, the woman manages the home. She's the queen of the private sphere. She's modest, right? She's surrounded by children. She raises the children to reproduce the model society. And the opposite of the good woman is not the man. It's actually the bad woman, which is to say someone who's worldly instead of homely, one who goes out in public, especially if they go immodestly. If the good woman, understandably, has a bit of chub after her 9 pregnancies in service to the nation, the bad one is skinny, and she's skinny because she's selfish and vain. If the ideal female is married, then this one isn't. So we basically have what you'd call, back in the day, a loose woman, a worldly woman. Now, the public presentation of fascism in the 1930s didn't really allow for this. You don't see this on the propaganda posters. This woman was not officially sanctioned, but now they're expanding it, aren't they? Ice Barbie appears more like a porn star in a gun magazine than a grandmother. Now, why this is interesting is that semiotically, Kristi Noem is a transvestite, right? She's dressed as a cop or a cowboy or a plumber more than half the time, all of which fall on the masculine side of the sexual distinction. And she's getting elected and promoted by doing this, which might be unexpected in traditional fascism. So this shows a kind of progress in fascism that no one has said anything about all this. Now we should try to explain why this is happening. Basically, it's out of necessity, because women now aren't all going to accept being breeders, and we just can't dial the clock back on that.
But another one of the reasons why I wanted to specifically talk about this video is for that specific reason, that there is a shift, a very pronounced and noticeable shift about what's okay, or the face of fascism, right? And that this is something that we should be kind of just interested in. Don't like the word he used. When he said transvestite, is that the word that you... I think that's the word he used, right? Yes, and should affirm your point. Fascists are willing to work with the left, and the left is not willing to work with the right. That's the one advantage they have over us. Absolutely, 100%. I would completely agree. And with your sentiments, it won't matter if we get rid of electoralism. Big arid monster. Fox, all the email news. Yeah. Yes, misogynists like masculine females. It's a broad stroke, first time chatter. It's a broad stroke, but I think I understand the sentiment you're trying to get across there. And Fox News anchors are I don't know. Their readers appeal to trans. I don't know if... What? Whose readers appeal trans? Don't know that, I'd agree with that. Alright, well, let's get back to the video and see where that goes.
So they are willing to give ground here on the masculine, non-feminine axis, precisely because it means they can keep the feminine, non-masculine axis intact. She is not crossing this line because that's too spooky. This is a diversion from sexual difference instead of breaking the code. It's the transgender signifier that actually breaks the code, and they aren't willing to permit that. So it seems they're willing to permit the bad feminine signifier because it does not threaten the masculine signifier directly. And all of conservatism's energy comes from anxiety over the masculine signifier disappearing. So the transgender sign that goes up here, it undermines masculinity. See, because if a man has a nature and he's capable of losing it, well, then it's not really nature, is it? But they have come a long way. They're progressive here in allowing bimbo fascism into the semiotic square. Anyway, semiotic squares, they'll have to wait. This is a triangle, obviously, not a semiotic square. But if I had done the semiotic square properly by the book, we would have a fourth corner down here, and it would be called... It would be something like twink fascism. So let me know if you see that pop up anywhere.
Millions of young people that are following a fucking Nazi. So you better be careful about those words.
Now, the bimbo fascist aesthetic, it's surprisingly not an American invention. You would totally think it was, though, right? Bimbo fascist aesthetic is not to be confused with the girls with gun aesthetic, which this is a historic American tradition. This one's different, though. The girls with the guns tradition, this is pinup, where the gun is sort of the prop of a prop. In the bimbo fascist aesthetic, the girl is not a prop. She's working. She's either working with men or replacing men in the scenes of military or police action. And you're never going to guess who started this trend.
About the women who guard some of the most sensitive areas in the world. Their commitment, courage, and conviction drive them in their mission to secure Israel's borders.
זה גם מה אתה משדר ואיך אתה מתנהל, ואני יכולה להיות חזקה מבלי להיות...
They are the fearless women of the IDF, standing on the front lines, side by side with their brothers in arms. We are fighting a war for the truth around the world, and people need to understand that the IDF is the most humane army in the world, and it has people like you, soldiers like you.
We imported the aesthetic, or Christie did, via post.
Right. All coming together. It's all coming together. Yes. Yeah, it all came during the Red Pill movement. Big Arid Monster, I know what Fox News correspondents look like. I just disagree. These women are bombing. Yeah, right, yes. At least women, right? It's the most moral army. These are women, nurturers, right? Of course, right? Exactly.
Posts. We have to add the American flavor, and it's smart. So the American flavor of the fascist aesthetic is cowgirl. It incorporates the mythical past created from movies, but this is the current avant-garde of fascism. So let's break down this image. This image, when I saw this is what I had to pause and study it. This inspired the whole video. No one would have seen this video at all if she didn't arbitrarily decide that the lady in the Honda Pilot was a domestic terrorist. But there's so much information in this set, even though no one would have seen it otherwise. Theater. So this scene, we're at the Texas border, and the backdrop is the military, the cops, and a giant orange sewer pipe. What does that mean? Okay, you don't need to be an expert in semiotics to determine that if they were thinking this through, a sewer pipe, this is how we're going to get the sewage, namely immigrants, back across the border. Sewage needs to be drained. And we got old Gloria up here draped on an APC. Now, in civilized countries, cops don't ride around in APCs. So in civilized countries, we would know that this sign belongs to a group with these signs. But because this is America, it's ambiguous, and so placed center frame. What this does is confuse the roles of the cops and the military. It's intentionally blurred here. And what are these roles? This is important. Cops, police, they're reserved for law and order among citizens, an internal threat of violence. The military is for external threats to protect the border from what's outside of it.
Think about what you anticipate an empire in decline will do to maintain its power. Think about the next steps for an empire in decline to maintain its power. What might be the purpose of confusing the symbols of police and military? Might be the case. There's a lot of psychological speculation going on that I would generally not be interested in pursuing, but you might be right.
Now, why would we want to blur the distinction between internal coercive power and outside coercive power? Why would we think that external threats are internal and vice versa? Yeah, so here we come to the real stakes. Every fascist ever, and not only fascist, but every fascist ever has justified militarism and violence by saying that the external threat is inside the borders, right? In order to blur the distinction between cops and the military. That's very important to the project. Again, what's a real cop? You're not allowed to know what a real cop is. Why? Because it's an emergency. It's always an emergency. And then we come finally to center frame, the image that unites internal violence and external violence, and it's her, Christy. The cowboy hat, the jeans, the oversized belt buckle. This is taken from movies, of course, but in American folklore, the cowboy is a man of few words. He's independent. He's got a profound sense of morality, but he's not afraid to kick some ass if he has to defend the weak. And he reluctantly takes it on himself to bring stability and justice to the lawless frontier, which is the edge of civilization. Now, this is how Cowgirl Christie wants you to see her.
I wouldn't mind spending a whole lot of time unpacking all of the horrible thing-ism. That'll be something that we do later. The everything about cowboy aesthetic is evil, patriarchic, white savior. It's all about control, assimilation, no law and order, not following protocol, not following committee, not appealing to democracy. It's the opposite of all of those things. And it was stolen and whitewashed, right? The whole cowboy aesthetic, the John Wayne aesthetic, was stolen from Black and indigenous people, primarily who cowboys were in the real world, and sanitized and turned into this mythological icon, this archetype, which in every way is evil and gross and terrible, despicable. And then we get children to idolize that. Everything about cowboy, and it's one thing that I'll throw out, because we're so close to the end of the video. One thing that I'll throw out to contrast this is one of the things that I talk about in class. I teach about lifeboat ethics from Hardin, and I contrast this with Bolden's lifeboat or a spaceship Earth analogy, right? So Bolden has this spaceship Earth analogy where we ought to think about the planet as one ship that we are all on, and it has a finite amount of resources, and we want to be able to use this ship tomorrow, so maybe we should use it responsibly, right? Is kind of the sentiment of the spaceship Earth idea. And then Hardin comes along and gives us the lifeboat analogy, that rather than it being all one, we are a bunch of different nations, and some of the nations are rich and some of the nations are poor. And so anyways, I'm getting a little bit off track. The analogy is, Bolding talks about a cowboy economy. The idea of manifest destiny, that there is a limitless expanse of untamed wilds out there, and my consumption can be limitless because there is a limitless frontier out there for me to contend with, right? This cowboy economy is how we have designed our economic model of constant consumption, so that we can continue to build more machines faster so that we can consume, so that we can build more machines faster so that we can consume, right? This is a dangerous and irresponsible system that we have constructed and let loose, right? And that's exemplified by cowboy mentality. that I have the right to, at gunpoint, tame the untamed wilds that just happen to have, you know, brown people in it already, and is already existing with nations, and we push all of that aside and just have the savior that does it, Bauer, from 24. This is this is the same archetype, right? The hero from 24 continually, over and over and over and over again, does the wrong thing, does the evil thing, but he has to, you know, to save the day, to save America, to save the hostages. He has to not get a warrant. He has to torture this person. He has to murder this person without trial. He doesn't have a choice, you see. Right? That cowboy who is reckless and irresponsible and just, right? He knows what's right. And this is the identity that fragile white men aspire to be, right? That to be Jack Bauer, to be John Wayne, despite the fact that they don't know anything about how to understand the world at all. Yeah, we're all over the place here. So many good concepts we're chatting about, just all over the place. Oh, fun fact, most cowboys had gay sex with each other. I believe that. Right? I mean, you build a companionship with these people on the road. But how will the landlords charge rent, right? Midwest capitalism, yes. Yeah, the plantation colonialism began in Ulster, Ireland. Yeah, it is long before the Americas. Absolutely. Good bring up, good historical bring up. Even without the brown people, it'd still be bad, right? Thank you, Eleni. Even without the brown people already living there, it would still be bad and exploitative and irresponsible. Right, exactly. 100%. Gosh darn mother plucking cowboy. My daddy was a cow and my mama was a boy. Needy half person. Half cow, that's me, the cowboy. Yeah, Israel is a colony of the U.S. frontier, cowboy colonist project. Yes, I would agree with that statement. I mean, there's some nuance to be had there, right? That's kind of a reduction, but it's not a wrong statement, and not a wrong reduction to make. Oh, it's a song? Oh, that's funny. Interesting, the considered subhuman slaves, maybe as the Muslim and Gaza are regarded by Israel. Yeah. You're not seen as real human, right? We'll get back to that because we want to talk more about the way that we identify others as either those deserving of moral rights or those not. But we'll get back to that later. Let me get back to the video so we can wrap this up.
A Heartland girl. She's supposed to be a stoic defender of the weak, bringing law to the lawless frontier. And at least in this scene, this is what came out of the dream closet today. All the world's a stage. You can see the contradictions. Again, the contradictions don't matter. That's what is meant to be conveyed here. All right, that's the breakdown, folks. I can only hope, I do hope, that you understood something that you didn't understand before about the world. You know, it's not getting any better. Would you like more media like this to exist? Well, it takes a lot of work, as I hope you noticed. If you find value in work like this, then I invite you to pay for it.
Yeah. Like and subscribe though. Let me I should take the time to go ahead and put this link in chat. I spent a lot of time talking about this on stream, so I should promote the plastic pills. We like plastic pills around here. Again, we don't believe that anybody's right. What we're trying to do is we're trying to build a conception of truth and knowledge that works for us, not be the bosses of truth and knowledge. What were to say? Probably why mammoths died out too. Or well, I don't know about mammoths, but buffalo. But the reason why buffalo died out has to do with a deliberate genocide of the buffalo from white colonizers, because indigenous people used it as a food source. So there was a campaign for, I think it was like 7 or 8 years, where they were just, the military would go out and just massacre buffalo. Not skin them and do anything with them. They just massacred the buffalo as much as they possibly could. And they tried to hunt them to extinction, was the literal intention of the white colonizers. Here was a scientific racist, yep, and pro-slavery, father of liberal democracy, yup, yeah, whose ideas are institutionalized and are still revered today. Infinite growth is so irresponsible, absolutely. I might share those later. Well, I've got the Hardin article. I can just share that. Bolding is a little bit more complicated. I'll see if I can find a place. It's one of those. I don't have my students read bolding. I give them a short summary, and then I explain it. Like it's part of the slideshow presentation, because I can't afford the rights for the university to be able to use that as a direct source, because it's not just something that's free yet, for whatever reason. Yep. All right. So I've streamed for a long time today, and I'm ready to call it. It was a fantastic stream. It really was. This has been. I thought it was going to be more of a. Well, today defied my expectations. Thank you. Thank you all for showing up and defying my expectations, because today was a million times better than I even anticipated. I like streams. Streams always enjoyable, but today was really fun. We had a good time. I had a good time anyway. So, this is not at all what I'm looking for. I can't find it. Need to get better at figuring out what I'm doing. And I pushed the wrong button again. It's probably the 3rd time in a row I've pushed the wrong button. Let's see if we can get this to actually work now. Oh, that's still the wrong one. There you go. Professional streamer here. I know what I'm doing, I promise. Okay. Let's look for a raid target. That's a good one. We've got a good one right off the top of our list. Twitch needs good. Yeah, that's something I agree with. Oh, big-eared monster. Oh, I've been reading that completely wrong. Big-eared monster. Twitch needs more good politics streamers. I agree. I think that there seems to be a kind of resurgence. There was a lot of us who left. You know, because I was streaming like 5 or 6 years ago, and it right, we lost Conrad, Kenny, and Anarchist Labs Laboratory. You know, there were a lot of streamers who were all doing politics, and that they all kind of left all at the same time. But there seems to be a resurgence. People are coming back. Politics seems to be picking up more steam. Noisy is doing the Epstein files lately. Yeah, I was hoping that Noisy would be on, but I didn't see him on. But that's okay. We're gonna raid into Transgirl because they're awesome and cool. And a comrade. So let's go give them some love. Please, yeah, there's a bit of a revolving door. Please give your love and support to Comrade, Transgirl. Let's go give some good energy to them. And I'm out of time. I thank you all so much. I really appreciate you all being here. It's been a fantastic stream, and until the next time I see you, be excellent to